Here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
Looting through the rubble, leaving cities war-torn, still incurring more scorn. Ragged and I'm forlorn, trying to unlock this. Open with my lockpicks, punching with my second hand every time the clock ticks.
Alright, there you go.
You shouldn't have come back, Flynn.
Hey, it's the big master control program everybody's been talking about.
Sit right there. Make yourself comfortable.
Ah, yes, hack the planet indeed. I have no concept because I do not have my phone near me if I'm chipmunking, but I shouldn't because we basically left the settings as before. But hi everyone out there. If I am chipmunking or I sound too low or I'm too loud on the microphone, just let me know. But just as a reintroduction, I am Side Pocket. I'm with... Oh, that's the other thing. Oh, crap. In my rashness to set up, I almost forgot to do this, so actually I'll do the spiel when I get to this point. I'll make this correction. So hi, I'm Side Pocket. I'm one of the two co-founders of DCG 201, formerly known as DEFCON 201 or DC 201. We are one of the many DEFCON groups across the nation of the United States and around the world. Our 201 is our area code, which is New Jersey, specifically Jersey City. Thank you, Pony Lover. And that's actually someone in chat, by the way, for people who are watching and can't see the updates. We normally meet third Friday every month, doing all sorts of cool hacker stuff. Our meeting, if Delta stays in its goddamn lane, should be on August 20th, hopefully in about a day or two. So between 24 to 48 hours from now, we are going to announce what our group information, like what that meeting is going to entail. And of course, put a caution of that things might change at the last minute. But if you want to know more about our organization and what we do and things like that, hi, Delta Domo, nice to see you again. This is the website at defcon21.org, programmed and I think partially hosted at least by Cyril, who's one of our more active DCG 201 members, and without him, a lot of infrastructure couldn't exist. We're also all over the social media. We've been sharing a lot of DEFCON 29 stuff at our Twitter at DEFCON201NJ and on our Instagram at DEFCON201. We're also on Mastodon with hostducks.social. GI Jack made us our own .onion website. And we're on a bunch of different things. If you want to know all of them, you can go to our website. And if you want the master list, here's all the social media links. We also just want to know that if you like all of the content that you're going to see on the show today, you can like, share, and subscribe to us on Twitch, DLive, or YouTube. Those are our main platforms. In fact, if you're on YouTube, make sure to hit that bell and turn all notifications on because YouTube is really weird like that. I also need to rehydrate. For some reason, my sinuses always act up when I stream, and I don't know why. Then again, I've been moving a bunch of stuff, so there's probably a ton of dust kicked around. If you are on DLive, we really need you. All we need is 2 more people for free. Just follow us for free on DLive. We are 2 people away from being what's called Cryptocurrency Superstar on our account, which we can do a lot more, not only with just my other show, Crypto Barons, but just with the DLive account in general, and that's what that counter is there for. So I'm hoping someone's going to follow very shortly on that. And we also are on some smaller streams. For all the people out there who are watching on PeerTube, you are the awesome open source decentralized people, and we really love Diode Zone's instance of PeerTube. They are just amazing folks to work with, and we're so glad that we're actually honored that they are hosting on us. My glasses are a little crooked. Let's try to remove this. There we go. That's a little better. There's also some hackers that are watching us on YouTube, but they're watching us through a web open source service called NVIDIA's via Tor, so they're completely anonymous, which makes them uber elite hackers. God, what's going on with my glasses? What the heck? Am I turning to Velma? My glasses, I can't see without my glasses. There we go. That's a lot better. And for all of those who are out there, if you are on Facebook, my condolences. There is a way to chat with us on Facebook, but because Facebook doesn't play nice with a lot of applications, including our platform, Restream, you do have to go through an extra step. So for those on Facebook, that's the link that you click on in order to talk with us. Without further ado, this is not one of our special live streams. This is actually my show that's on the first and third Sunday of the month called Master of Unlocking, which you wouldn't know because in my rush I was basically like almost on time besides a slight kerfuffle that happened. And what I completely forgot was I actually have to add all the logos back in. So this is kind of the behind the scenes of like how stupid some of the logo stuff looks. So I'm going to put this over here, and this should be fine. Let's check. Yeah, that's good. Actually, you know what? There's a bit more dead space on the upper right. Nothing to do with the video game, of course, so I'll put that up there. And then on the other screen, I'll have to adjust that when I flip over. But yes, this is Master of Unlocking. This is the show where we take a look at locks and other physical security mechanisms, talk about how they're structured, how they work. We often sometimes do a bit of exploring, and we find weaknesses in those structures, and then we do all sorts of techniques such as lock picking and lock bypassing in order to get things done. Now, first of all, you might recognize this lock. This has a bit of a story behind it of that this was the lock on our last episode of Master of Unlocking, which is the Master Lock number 15, and we'll put it onto the ML. We'll do that. Well, you'll probably see me play with this. You'll also probably see me play with, where it goes, a whole bunch of locks over here, and I actually have to probably at some point quickly run off and get my other kit that has all the lock bypasses in it, because we are also going to look at latch bypassing today. And that has a kind of a contribution because you notice last episode I had a hard time. I only raked the thing open once and I could not pick it. Well, picking is a little odd. This is kind of a little camera shy. I might have to spray more lock lube on it, but this Master Lock 15 I have now officially raked really easy multiple times, and I have picked this open a couple of times, and I can actually go over and explain why this was really hard for me to pick open the first time. Like, I was picking it open out of the case before, I put it back in the case, tried to do it on air, and it took forever, and there's a whole story behind that we're going to get into in our second section. So basically we're going to have a first section, a break, and then a story time with some cool locks that, as I've been hyping up, nearly freaking killed me. But first, and this is kind of sad too, because I was like, okay, so the closing ceremonies for DEFCON, they're going to start at 7 p.m. our time. So I was going to give it 2 hours and start. But from what I understand, the closing ceremonies is like, it's been, even though it's been a year, it feels like it's been a decade since I've seen DEFCON and Hope. And I keep forgetting that closing ceremonies for these type of cons just keep going on and on and on. So as far as I know, if we have low viewers on this episode live, which I don't really care for, because as long as you folks are here and I'm able to teach you stuff, and at least one person walks away with something cool experience or something they've learned, I'm happy. If we have low viewership today, it's because I probably either should have did the episode tomorrow or I should have did the episode like way late in the night, like at midnight or something, because oh boy, like this is gonna, like, by the time this episode ends, I'll put it this way, if the closing ceremonies are still going on, we will rehost the closing ceremonies. So we went from closing ceremonies to Master of Unlocking, and we might end with closing ceremonies. This is I guess it's because after the 1 year, they're letting like every person and their mom and their AI bot and their Roomba and their Alexa just speak for the closing ceremony. So we'll see. But speaking of this closing ceremonies, what I've been talking about is all this week has been most of Hacker Summer Camp. Hacker Summer Camp actually still goes on into next week with the Usenext conference. We already have a guide up for that. We're gonna repost that probably tomorrow because it goes from Tuesday to Thursday this week. But most of Hacker Summer Camp happened this week, and we're going to take a look at that, and we're also going to take a look at just mainly at DEFCON 29 and its two main villages that went completely virtual this year. There was no physical. Well, there were some people there, and from what I understand, Tool, the Open Organization of Lockpickers, you can go to I'll actually type it in chat here. It's HTTPS TOOL, that's Tool with 3 O's.us. I'm part of that. They were at the merchandise booth, selling merchandise in a sanitary manner, but there was no lockpicking village physically if you went to DEFCON 29 this year, because even though we have guides on how to do lockpicking in person safely, even with 1/3 the amount of the people at DEFCON, there was no safe, hygienic way that we could that Tool and us could like hygienically do all the equipment all of those 3 days. Yes, no, I've been on YouTube since its inception as well. Normally, so I occasionally just look at the viewer count, and sometimes I try to figure out what happened here, what didn't happen here, but I don't go crazy over it, because I notice everyone who goes like crazy over what their viewership is, unless they literally have like multiple hundreds, thousands of people, or if they're like Ninja or Strife or something, those are the people who always get stuck with super low views and honestly really sucky chats, because all they're doing is worrying about the numbers instead of like the human interaction, even though we're doing this via pixels and sound waves and electricity virtually through the screen from me to you and vice versa. That's what I'm more focused on, especially Master of Unlocking with how hands-on and physical this is. So, before we get to this, even though we're not picking locks in this segment, although you're going to probably see me fiddle around with a bunch of locks just because, I do want to go over 2 giant rules that Tool has that every lockpicker worth their salt, which means I also subscribe to. And those 2 rules are, 1, do not pick locks that you rely on. If you watch this episode, future episodes, past episodes, I've had so many people, unfortunately, even when I tell them this, that as soon as they're done lockpicking, they want to try to pick the lock on their front door. They try to pick the locks on their windows, their briefcase, their gym lockers, schoolroom lockers, etc. And I have to make them stop, because when you pick a lock, every time you pick it, even if you open it successfully, you slightly weaken that lock. You can then weaken the lock to the point where you can wear down and break that lock, and you also have a risk of breaking off your own tools. So do not pick locks that you rely on. The second rule, and then I'll answer your question in chat. The second rule is that do not pick locks that you don't own. After seeing this show or any of the past episodes or even future episodes, excuse me, and you go around, you're walking around like to the grocery store or to the porn store or whatever, and you're like, oh, I saw that on the Master of Unlocking, that's the blah, 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 lock. I have the bypass for the blah, 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 lock. I know how to... Don't do that, because, 1, that lock is on someone else's property, so by automatically fiddling around with their crap that's not yours, you are trespassing. They probably also have a good reason, no matter how trivial it is, of why they have that lock on there. And it's just a very bad idea. Either you're going to get beaten up by the store owners, the property owners, beaten up by the police, or both. And we try to stay legal here. In fact, let me know if this link doesn't work, because I sometimes keep forgetting the exact way the exact URL. But one of the biggest questions that I always get is, what is the legality of lockpicks across America? Now, I'm not a lawyer, okay, that's another front, but I do want to get this out of the way. In general, okay, in the very broadest sense, in most of the United States, like the majority, like 92 to 95% of the United States, it's okay. Just have to be aware that, again, it's similar to if the police are if the police are on high alert and they find a baseball bat in your car, even if your kid does go to softball practice, they're going to pull you over and ask questions. If there is like a high alert for a robbery and they pull you over for a routine check or something, or you go through the airport and they find lockpicks on you, what they think you're going to be doing. So, like, make sure you do OPSEC and recon like that. There are states that are wonky about this, and Tool, for the United States, I can't speak for the rest of the world. I think there's a website for Australia that has a similar listing, but I can't remember what it is. But I believe this is it. If not, just take away the S out of laws, and it should work. But I think that's the URL, and it has a map of the United States, and you can go by each state, and it's also color coded too, and you can see the legality of locks in your area, lockpicking in your area. So, actually, I haven't looked at. I'm not looking at the map right now, but I think California is okay. It's kind of the states next to it. Like I think Tennessee's one of them or something. It's like the odd states that are kind of iffy now. Sorry, people on each end, unless you're HAL 9000. Well, if you are, you're a pretty good AI bot, and I assume you're the result of the entire weekend of the AI village going absolutely crazy at DEFCON. But yeah, so just as an overview, even though we're not going to do the locks right away in this segment, even though you're going to see me fiddle with them, do not pick locks that you rely on, and do not pick locks that you don't own. All the locks that you see on this show, and it's also the same locks I have in my lockpicking kit. If you went to the DCG 610 meetup in Philly, my case was full of these locks, even more containers than this. And this is, yeah, because this is like my absolute portable, like, thing that I have in here when I take them out of the case. But all the locks that you see here, I do not use them to secure anything. And I own these locks, and I publicly let everyone use these locks when I'm doing the trainings. These locks only exist for the purpose for teaching me and others how to pick locks, as well and do security bypasses, as well as for me and others to work on to get better with our craft over time. So there we go. I didn't know you were an owl. So let's go over to the screen mode now. I'm going to probably have to move the Master of Unlocking icon somewhere because, again, I forgot to put it where it's supposed to be. Yep. See, this is what it normally looks up. This is what it normally looks like behind the scenes when I'm not paying attention on anything. And because a lot of these websites have black backgrounds, the logo's not going to probably come up as good. But I'm actually going to stick it in the upper left-hand corner here, so that way, like, super. It's like when you try to look up an image and they put all those terrible little, what do they call those? Little, like, transparent icon. I can't think because I've been going through 3 straight days of virtual DEFCON. Dollar store and Walmart lock kids cheap for learning. I will actually clarify that while usually most low-end department stores, such as Walgreens or even Home Depot, will do things. I mean, there are actually good master locks, but just most of them suck ass. The 2 locks I always recommend that. Well, first of all, I always recommend to go online to an actual lockpicking reseller such as Sparrows or Southord, Lockpick Extreme, things like that, and get a progressive lockpick training set. That's where they take these sort of little. This is from Tool itself. You can also go to Tool, these like pin and. Okay, because that's all the lock loop. Pin and tum. Okay, all right, that's interesting. A little wet in this case. I don't know why. I'll check that out. Break with these pin and tumbler. Okay, this is weird. Pin and tumbler locks, and then they rekey them to different pin types. All right, I'm actually going to rescue a bunch of these right now. And I was not expecting any of that. Let me tell you. Maybe it was like beer that fell or something. I don't know. So anyhow, what was I saying before? I promise we're going to get to, like, the main, checking out Tool and the Bypass Village. I just need to take care of all this because I have no idea how any of this happened. I'm going to have to, like, get brass polisher later and figure something out here. All right, I think I got everything. I think I rescued everything. Basically, there was, like, some, like, condensation liquid in there. I think I know what happened, unfortunately. Anyhow, what was I saying before? So, I actually completely forgot what I was saying. Let's actually, how about we just get into this? So, this is DEFCON 29. This is the website right here. This is what we've been looking at all day, and they've finally done the press roundup, so they just found all the press stuff that they could. I will let, I have actually, I'm going to check right now, but there was supposed to be, like, a link in order to sell, it's supposed to be on the Discord, for badges, and if G.I. Jack can go looking on Discord and check DEFCON's actual Twitter and stuff, to see if they've announced that, that would be a good idea, because I would like that for our meetup on the 20th. I did not know there was a cutoff date for the virtual badges, otherwise I would have ordered one already. So that was the whole thing. Anyhow, so there was a ton of stuff going on this weekend. And actually, let's rewind back a bit to a different Hacker Summer Camp thing. So technically, I mean, okay, so if you really want to be super quaint, let's actually hop to this website first. So the first actual thing, and we missed this. I thought this was going to happen all at the same time. I didn't know they were going to do this convention early, but the Diane Initiative happened in the middle of July. I had no idea. I thought it was going to happen in August again or in late July. I didn't know it was going to happen in the middle of July. It was July 16th and 17th. We apologized to that initiative. It was like, oh, if we knew that, we would have already started off the guides like early on in the month instead of later in the month and would have had all of that there. And so let's look at event activities here because let's see. Did they have? Yep, they did have a lockpick village. In this virtual conference. I think they probably did the same way they did it last year, where, yep, it was sponsored by Lockpick Extreme, which makes these amazing, this is the only ones I've found that ever rivals Tool, these amazing 2 through 6 pin practice lock sets, each key to their own sort of thing. And basically you had to register, and by registering you paid for a bunch of stuff, and then they would mail you the progressive locks and your starter pick set. And on Saturday, on the July 17th, they had like a Zoom meetup or whatever, or the hop-in or whatever they used, and actually went in like a personal way and taught everyone locks. So technically, that's how Hacker Summer Camp started off. And then when we get to like the actual week of Hacker Summer Camp, everything started off with B-Sides Las Vegas. And this is kind of neat because everyone kind of ramped into like lockpicking. It's kind of really neat. Unfortunately, let's see. Oh boy. Okay, so I don't have that. So you know what we actually might have to do here? Let's actually go to our medium guides because that's where they will have the links to this. But it was neat because basically everyone kind of got eased back into lockpicking, particularly virtually, which I guess is the theme this year. All the lockpicking was virtual because, again, how do you pass this around with cleanliness? You really can't. So, so once I attempt to get this loading, and hopefully we don't drop it in the streams and stuff like that, the way they kind of did this was it was extremely casual. And it was really neat actually. So what they had was they had little lockpicking tutorials. Unfortunately, I couldn't save any, but they had little lockpicking tutorials in between all of the talks. So that way there was like you would be able to get out there and see everything. And I'm going to do something crazy while this loads, and I'm going to actually mirror the screen right here if I can. Actually, since we're on this part, let's just scroll down and look and kind of zoom in here because I've never actually gone here with this particular variant of the browser. But yeah, so they have these little videos going back and forth that will be up, I guess, on their YouTube later. And then if I can mirror the screen, so it's about to get trippy right now here, okay, folks? So let's see, we have the, let's see, where's the little mirroring? Like, it should be chat background, doc. One of these, hang on. Display capture, here we go. So watch this. We're gonna go on acid here for a moment. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right. So if we go to Discord, there was a B-Sides Las Vegas Discord right here. And they had a little, like, virtual lockpick village that I think is still open to some degree. And apparently Senator Palpatine is talking about a lot of stuff in Lockpick Village. But yeah, so we were all talking about locks. I was telling people about my show. A big theme, it seemed, for B-Sides Las Vegas, which I think is really cool, and I hope it gets on with the rest of the Locksport community, is making lockpick cases out of things you would not expect to be a lockpick case. Like, even though this is very flat and tactical and covert, like, you look at this and either... You know this has either, like, illegal tools in it, illegal drugs, both. Like, it might be, like, a cryptographic cell phone. Like, what is this? This just looks up to no good, this type of case, even though it is very flat, tactical, and really fits in my pocket well flush. An interesting, like, not better, but different technique is, like, I've seen people get, like, My Little Pony purses and, like, Barbie handbags and stuff, and then redo the entire inside so that's their actual EDC, especially for the femme-identifying people out there. So I thought that was like really cool, and we got to like talk about locks and stuff. So, and finally, after we get off of acid, here we go. We're gonna quickly go back on acid again. Here we go. And now we're back. So now that we're back from our acid trip, the most weirdest thing that came out of this is they made a instruction manual. And we're gonna pick this thing apart right now, because I have some good things about it and bad things to say about it. So here's how they're saying how to pick a lock. And what I'm gonna actually do here is I'm going to take my clear lock, right? And I'm going to take my short hook and my super duper big long tension wrench and pretend like I am new here. So my first problem with this, and you know, they had to make this really fast. It's not a diss against them because everyone uses these. This is my own personal pet peeve, and I really need to help contribute to stop this problem, is that these diagrams are from Tool. And they were made years and years ago, back in the... if I remember correctly, I believe these diagrams were made back when the way people presented the lock stuff physically on stage is they had one of those, like, mirrored projectors that, like, your teacher would bring out in high school to show you, like, how to dissect frogs and how puberty worked. Like, one of those machines. This is when these diagrams were made. And the animations for them are really crude and worse. I've been meaning to, I know Lockpick Extreme has these, but it's proprietary to them. I've been meaning to make like open source 3D models with also 3D model videos that are more modern, that kind of show off at different angles and more of like a solid, realistic thing about what these look like inside, because I've had people get confused over these images. So they're like, here's what a lock looks like in the front, okay? Well, first of all, the key pins aren't colored here. And also, that's another problem with mine. If I had to redo these, even with the 3D models, in addition to making each part a different color, I'd also put a different texture. So I might put like vertical stripes on the driver pin and horizontal stripes on the key pin or something. Because what happens if you're colorblind and we're saying the blue pin, and I mean, we could say upper or lower, but like it just helps, you know? Again, these were made, it's not a diss against the people making the guide, it's just that these images are ancient, and so like they really need to be updated, and I'd like to eventually contribute to updating. My little pony curse, yep. We retweeted that a while back. If we have a bit of time later, I'll go on to Twitter and look at that. Okay, so we have front, you'll see two pins, as well as an inner plug, which is part of the lock, and then freely rotate once the upper blue pins are lifted out of the way and are no longer blocking the rotation. I have a little bit of problem with the wording of that, because first of all, when you look at an actual, not a see-through lock, even with a see-through lock, no, hang on, this plug part, unless that's also transparent or it's a true cutaway, meaning it's cut away completely down from the entire lock body, you won't be able to see the key pin. You'll be able to kind of see the key pin, possibly if the keyway is wide enough in the top of the lock. That's why I always tell people look at the top and see that little bullet-shaped thing in there. That's the key pin. But if it's not clear, you won't be able to see the driver pin. So I think it should mention that one. You can see the key pin through the keyway, and then above it is this little soda can-like thing called the driver pin, and say what color and texture it is. And the way I kind of describe it is, I wouldn't say when the upper part, the blue pin, is out of the way, because other locks, sometimes it's the key pin that's kind of set super high up. They're all different combinations. The way I kind of describe it is that these pieces of metal are in the way of trying to rotate the plug, and that it will freely rotate when the driver pin is at the top of, sorry, let me rewind. There's a gap that's formed in between the plug and the lock body called the shear line. It's a little bit of space, and when that blue striped driver pin is above that shear line and the key pin's right below it, that creates a small enough a gap between those that it completes the gap and the whole thing can turn. I know they have limited space here, and you'd have to work on the wording to condense that down, but I used to use this type of description before, and I found out that the one I just told you is a way better description. And so the second part here in there, guys, and here's there's a cutaway view from the side. Lockpicking involves manipulating the pins, which are red and blue. In this drawing, again, I would add texture. Here's a side view within the larger scale of the lock, or I guess they super shrunk down the pin tumbler, and we have the key that goes in, the entire driver, the springs holding it down. They didn't mention this is known as the Bible, or as I like to call it, the Bibble. The pins, the cylinder, and honestly, I'm actually shocked. They don't even have to point out the shackle and the fact that this is a padlock, but they should really point out the actuator, because the whole reason why you're turning the cylinder is to activate the actuator, which is the thing that opens the lock and opens a door if it's on a door. The keys lift the pins so that the driver pins move out of the way and the plug can rotate. Again, in my opinion, the better description is the key pins make all the driver pins go above the shear line evenly, and the key pins go below the shear line evenly, and the driver pins above the shear line evenly to create enough of a gap in the plug so that it can freely turn, because otherwise the metal pieces are in the way. Because this is an important part that I'm glad they put in. You can actually see on this key lock, this clear lock here, because of imperfections in manufacturing, the drill holes, and they really should say the drill holes for the key pins, driver pins, and springs don't line up, and the driver pins can get caught above the shear line. We use a lock pick to lift the pins one at a time, and a tension wrench or a turning tool. You can use any of them. That's why I just say all of the different names. To keep the plug from freely rotating back in place, releasing all the driver pins that were set. Let me think of a possible different description here a little bit, because that's to me it's a little wonky. I think there's two tools we use: a lock pick to mimic the cuts and bitting on the key to move the key pins up and down so that the driver pins lock into place, and the tension wrench or turning tool to constantly put a certain amount of pressure and or tension on the plug as if you're turning the key so the pins don't reset. Doing both of these at the same time will manipulate the mechanism in such a way that you're able to open it without the key. I know they need a bit more space for that, but that's just a more like, I can kind of tell this is supposed to be like a quick and dirty, but I've also seen like, like easy pickings, but like quick and dirty manuals that to me offer a lot better. And again, I'm not dissing the people who made the guide. This is more of just, again, it's ancient stuff, and I'm pretty sure they had to scramble and put this together in the same way we scramble and put things together. A lot easier to show the mechanics with a physical example. That's why I will say this, that's why I'm really glad that this is pictures, because, there's people learn in different ways. There's some people very visual, some people like to read, some people need to see videos, some people need to be hands-on. I'm glad that with this remote thing they have text with pictures, and honestly, these two pictures I think are pretty good. So, they said first, insert the tension tool, which is the L-shaped metal tool. I would have clarified that you insert the tension tool, that is the L-shaped bottom of the keyway tension wrench, in the bottom part of the plug. So where the key pins are, direct opposite, at the bottom. That's what's called the bottom of the keyway, because it goes at the bottom. Very gently hold the tension wrench in the place so the plug can't rotate. What I would have wrote there is that you then use your index, you have to hold it in the way that it says in the picture if it's a padlock, right? And that you use your index finger, and by the way, they should have also mentioned, you put the lock in your non-dominant hand. Your dominant hand holds your picks. You put the lock in your non-dominant hand, you put the tension wrench at the bottom of the keyway, tension wrench at the bottom of the keyway, it's L-shaped, and you use your index finger to gently press on the end of the tension wrench, and should have wrote just enough for either A, for the plug to just rotate and then stop, or B, enough to hold a single piece of paper onto a wall without falling. And I would have also wrote it, note, if your finger starts turning white around the tension wrench, you have tensioned it too hard. Ease up on the tension, put less pressure on it. So next, insert the pick with your other hand and push up on the pin. Try this with 1 or 2 pin trading locks first. Ask for any assistance if you needed. And they had a lot more space here to probably write more details, because I would have said you take a single pin tool such as a half diamond, showing a picture of it, or any hook. This is a short hook, and you would go in and you would press on the pins. And my short answer is treat the pins like your siblings. Just keep poking them until they give up. The long answer is that you keep poking at them. If they're loose, leave them alone. If they're stiff, you found one that's tension, you keep pressing up on it until it is loose. It's like whack-a-mole. You keep finding all the ones that are tense, and then eventually you will feel the tension wrench move completely, and that will allow it to rotate that plug, actuate the actuator, and unlock the padlock, door lock, or whatever physical security lock you have. It will open the thing. So I think this is a okay quick and dirty guide right before the con. It's just, especially since they had like a second other half of the page, I wish that they did more explanations, because I think to people who pick locks for a while, even if it's just for a month, like if all they pick is like master lock number threes, it seems really simple. But you have to kind of remember when you started out. You have to explain it to people like they're five because we all started off that way. So it's a little bit more complicated. Especially again, I've had to teach people over the years. I have taught 5-year-olds. I have taught elderly people. I have taught disabled people. People all different sort of learning abilities and disabilities. And I know that this hobby this method, because I've been doing it for a while, it's been like 4 or 5 years, seems simple to me, but it's actually more complex in practice. If you want to look at this guide yourself, and I do commend, though, that they did this guide in the first place, that they had text with images, and that's why I wish there was a whole second half that was more, because those 2 pictures are absolutely excellent. I would have just, personally, myself, as a nitpick, would have not used these images from Tool. I'm not dissing Tool. These are just ancient images. They do work. It's just, I feel like as time goes on, people get more frustrated with these images and confused, especially if you're colorblind, and that I would have like either drew my own images or I would have got like a cutaway lock or a clear lock, and I'd take pictures just like the beautiful pictures below and put them up here. But if you want to look at this PDF guide yourself, I am posting that in chat. Whatever says person's right. All these big words, picking lock is easier than the explanation. Just yeah, it does take practice, but like especially imagine like what's insane too is like another mistake that we do in the hacker community is that we assume that if someone is also good at like an engineering thing, that means they're all good at it. It's like the same way how like people think that like let's say you're in environmental science, let's say you're a scientist that studies minerals. You might have a general idea of science, but you probably don't know how the entire human cardiovascular system works. You probably don't know how nuclear radiation works. You probably don't know how applied physics works. Just because you are a scientist, or hell, even narrow it down, just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you are suddenly an MD expert in everything in the doctorate field, Like, just because you're a heart surgeon doesn't mean you're a virologist, right? Things like that. So I think we have this bad habit that, and that's why I'm glad you brought this up, that like, oh, if he knows how to do like advanced coding stuff, or like he like solders his own hardware from scratch blindfolded, he should know how to pick a lock easy. And those are actually some of the people that have the hardest time trying to learn this, because it is using different parts of your brain that you normally don't use, and especially if you're not used to like very physical things, or you have arthritis and things like that. So again, I've just taught so many different types of people, and the sad part is I actually missed out on Tool's call for papers, and it really sucks because like I found out 2 days after it closed. I'm like, oh no, because I've been meaning to submit to Tool. Maybe I'll submit it next year and cross my fingers that they accept it. I'll even do one that if Tool NYC or Tool New J opens up, I'll also teach this there as like practice for the talk. And I've wanted to teach a talk to intermediate and experienced lockpickers on how to teach this, like different teaching methods, how to build your own training kits that other people can use, like what to shop for, and like methodologies, terminologies, etc. Because just because you know how you're good at something doesn't mean that you know how to tell another person how to do it easy. If it did, everyone would be able to read man pages and be perfectly fine with everything. There's really shitty man pages out there for programs and documentation if you're like a GitHub person. So yeah. Yes, electrical engineers, no one knows nothing. You're probably very grounded, so at least that's neat to know. Yep. Keys do 2 things. They move pins and twist. Yep. Because that's actually the way I usually teach students, if it's especially in a group, is I say, okay, here's the is like, what is the 2 things the keys do? And I have them guess, and it's like that those grooves move the pins up and down, and that has a fat bottom ass so that you can rotate and turn it when all the keys are in the right, all the pins are in the right place. That's how I usually do it. I make it like really interactive, because the first wave of students that learn is always people who learn by interacting back and forth and like reading a manual. I go through a whole different thing. But anyhow, I'm going to post it one last time. If you want to look at the PDF guide yourself, you can look at there. Yeah. We should start calling them human pages eventually. But anyhow, so that was that. I'm going to remove this part. So let's go back to DEFCON here. So Tool had everything virtually this year. And I will say, we're going to try to load up something, and then I might run away. I'm going to run away, get my bypass stuff, and then I'm going to deal with whatever the hell happened in this goddamn container. I have no idea why. It's literally the point where, I've been meaning to get new another set or like 2 more sets of progressive trading locks, but I might actually have to in the future get some like brass polisher or brass restorer because basically they got wet somehow and that's my fault. I wasn't thinking straight. So anyhow, Tool had their virtual things. So there's 2 main things. There was the Lockpicking Village by Tool virtually, and then there's one of my favorite groups that I wish would get more attention called the Lock Bypass Village. Um, and so basically, like both of them have tool members in them, but the tool lockpicking one is more focused on single pin picking and the constructions of literally physical locks. Lock Bypass Village is more focused, obviously on bypassing, so they're not focused on picking, and they're focused on more other areas of physical security here. So like if I zoom into the page, you can see here that like, you know, they have how to make your own tools, RFID hacking, retail security, software defined radio, alarm bypasses, etc. That's all that sort of stuff here, right? So the first thing we're going to look at is tools, and they should have everything probably archived already, but we are going to figure all this stuff out here. So we're going to go to the master list here, and we're going to go to the let's see, there's the Lock Bypass Village, and let me think for a bit. Because what I'm trying to remember is exactly what is the URL for the Lockpicking Village of Tool. I thought I'd be in here. I'm actually going to load up tweets and replies in the meantime. Because here's the Bypass Village Twitch's page. It should have, it shouldn't be streaming anymore. They should have stuff on archive by this point. Oh, and now we're doing the weird thing with Twitter, so yay. But we're gonna figure this out. So So let's see. So we have like the endless streams from like the past 3 days. So that's neat. So I don't think we have individual. So we have the recent broadcast. So we can probably scroll and cherry pick through that. They also might have a YouTube channel. So we'll figure that out in a moment. But right now I want to go to Tools Twitch Village. So let me just search lock pick, and hopefully something should come up, because otherwise I have to scroll through our crazy list and it's going to drive me nuts. Let's see. Okay. So lockpick. Maybe tool with 3 L's. That did not work. Let's just try tool with 3 L's by itself. See what comes up. Alright, that did not work. Alright, I might have to go through like followed channels here. Let's find out. Because let's see. Because this is the, yeah, I don't know why I only list the Lock Bypass Village. That's kind of odd. But they forget that the Tool Lockpicking Village doesn't exist, you know? So what I'm actually going to end up going to is I'm going to go to our guides again. Let me just double check here. And hopefully this won't grind everything to a halt. I'm going to go to our guide for DEFCON 29, because that definitely will have the link to the Twitch channel that they had. And they should, because it's, so far as I've always seen, the lockpicking villages all have all their stuff recorded, because some villages, like, they've recorded their own stuff on their own end, but they do not have, like, the stuff to see afterwards. Like, they're basically waiting for DEFCON to upload all of their content. That's going to take, like, 2 to 4 months, so that's kind of a whole issue there. And I think what I'm going to have to do with some of these is, unfortunately, because of the way they got wet, I'm going to have to re-lube them. I'm going to have to re-lock lube them. And then later on in this month, I'm going to have to get to Brasser, and which I've been meaning to do anyhow, is I need to get new, like, base locks, lockpick. What I was saying earlier, by the way, is that don't just get any lock from, like, Walmart or whatever for your, like, first real lock to practice pick on. My 2 recommended ones are Master Lock 120, 140s. It's these, like, brass ones. They usually show up brass like this. Sometimes they also come in different colors and things. And similar different colors, although they usually come in blue, as Master Lock number 3s. Once you get through the 120, 140s, And the only difference, by the way, between two numbers is the shackle length. It has nothing to do with the insides itself. Go to Master Lock number 3s, and to me, those are the two like staples of like my first locks to practice on. So I'm gonna try to get this thing to load. Oh man, this is. Thought I had the right prep work for all of this, but apparently I did not. Fun stuff. New insert reward's gonna pop up right now, though. This is going to be a fun first half. I think we're going to probably look at a tool and bypass thing, and we're going to wait, like, that's going to be to 10, and then we'll take a short break, and then, like, we might be streaming in the midnight. I'm going to do the story Elmo thing up here. Put that right there. Let's see. Angered the demo gods. No, it's more that I, for some reason, thought that the master list that was given to me by DEFCON itself, we used a part of it for our guides. I thought they had the lock-picking village, but they only have the lock bypass village in here. Which is really strange, to be honest. It is just really, really strange. So now this loaded. We have our own master list down here, which truly does have everything. It's just, the guide is so freaking huge that it takes a bit for it to load. Especially if we're streaming at the same time. Yeah, here's the tool lockpick village. Okay, so I forgot to put the _US at the end. This is it. This is it. If you want to see our complete guide that was DEFCON 29, it also has links to all of our other guides. I'm going to put that in chat right now. It's on our Medium blog. There it goes, yep. Oh, you did. You did earlier. Hold on. Let me scroll back up. Must have been way earlier because I must have missed it. I apologize there. Thank you for sending me that link earlier, but at least, you know, at least found this out on my own volition. And in fact, even though I'm probably not going to use this particular browser again, there we go. That works. Awesome. So not only did they do recent broadcasts, but Tool actually separated things into chunks. So that's neat. It doesn't have everything in here because I know that Twitch usually only saves to a certain amount. Or maybe they do. We're going to find out. So there's a ton of intro to lockpickings. We might check that out and see how Tool eats it. There's the Western Electric thing again, which was also from last year. I'm trying to find something that wasn't kind of a thing from last year. There's safe cracking for everyone. How to make like bobby pins and stuff, which is a talk that I've done before. Let's see. It seems that that's what's been archived so far. Let's see. Just looking through a bunch of things. Yeah, so I think what we're going to watch, let's see. It's either going to be the bobby pin thing or the safe cracking thing. What do you think, chat? Do you want to see how to make your own DIY tools, particularly out of bobby pins, or do you want to jump ahead of something that's going to be a future episode of Master of Unlocking and do safe cracking? Yes, we have a similar list. It's just we normally have to go through the medium on that. That's why I try to preload everything before we stream. Let's see here. I think we actually probably, if you posted that on Twitter, I believe we shared that. So I'm going to make an executive decision. So I'm going to be away for a tiny bit. I just need to do a tiny bit of adulting. That's all in this building. But I'll be right back, picking locks, watching this with you. So what we're going to do is we reconnected. So yeah, no, sorry about that. Yeah, everything went to crap. I have no idea why. Sometimes, no matter what we do, that just occasionally happens, and we have no control over it. So I apologize for that. It also means we're probably going to have to fix the PeerTube now, because PeerTube doesn't have like it might be a bump, so we're going to wait. It thinks as soon as the connection dips, it thinks you've stopped streaming. So that was that right there. But I'm going to start, we're going to watch the safe cracking thing. We're going to do that for like half an hour or so. And then at like 10:30, we're going to watch half an hour of the lock bypassing thing, and then we're going to take a short break. And then we're going to look at the locks that nearly killed me. So, and I'll be doing commentary in between these. It's just for the first couple of minutes, I have to run around and do a bit of adulting in the apartment. Because that's the theme of today, is me just running around doing adulting and being tired all day. So, here we go.
rock climber, game developer, and I've been picking locks and cracking safes for about a decade now.
Let's rewind that a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So a couple of minutes, it's gonna go either way. But we're gonna watch safe cracking here. This should be fun. Fallout lockpicking is complete bullshit, and one of these days I'm going to do a Master of Unlocking and probably a couple of in-person talks going through different video game, movie, TV shows, manga, and Hollywood. Like, just how media portrays lockpicking and go through the good, bad, and the ugly. And Fallout is one of those where, like, I have no idea how those locks work. It's like little bits of things that actually work.
Welcome
and
to
then,
Safe Cracking
yeah,
for Everyone.
So, here we go.
A little bit
I'll be
about
right
myself.
back.
Who am I? My name is Jared Digert. I'm a Locksport enthusiast, gamer, rock climber, game developer, and I've been picking locks and cracking safes for about a decade now. So this talk is going to cover how Group 2 safe locks work, and mechanical combination safe locks are divided into two groups. There's Group 2s, which is your basic safe lock, no anti-manipulation features in them, also the most common type, and then there's Group 1s, which are more complicated and include various different measures to keep people from figuring out the combination. Now, whether you buy a $500 safe or a $5,000 safe, if it comes with a mechanical safe lock, it will most likely be a Group 2 safe lock. Very rarely are there Group 1 safe locks that come by default on a safe. Usually you have to pay hundreds of dollars extra for the lock, even more to get it installed, and it is not very common at all. So I'll be covering these Group 2 safe locks in this talk. I'll cover the flaws in this design and how to exploit them, along with specific techniques that is used to crack the combination. And at the end, I'll cover some slight differences between various Group 2 safe locks, since not all manufacturers create them the same way. First thing is knowing the parts of the lock. So this is the back of a lock with the back cover removed, and you can see that there is a silver lever here. Now, the end of this lever has a protrusion, and this protrusion is called the nose. This nose is resting on a brass wheel. The brass wheel is called a drive cam. And this drive cam, you can see, has a cutout in it. This space, this empty space in the drive cam, is called the contact area. You can see where the cutout starts on either end, and those are the contact points. So the cutout is the contact area, and each end of the cutout where it starts is the contact points. And this drive cam is controlled directly by the dial. So there's a metal rod you can see in the middle, and that connects it directly to the dial. It's locked in place with this key. So whenever you turn the dial, the drive cam moves at the same time with the dial. Behind the drive cam, you can see a larger silver wheel. There's 3 of these wheels, generally in each lock. Sometimes there could be 4, but most oftentimes it's 3. Now, this wheel that we see here is called wheel 3. It's the 3rd wheel. It's closest to the drive cam, and when you're in front of the lock, it would be furthest away from you. And the other 2 wheels are behind it. Now, each of these wheels are exactly the same. There is a cutout in each of these wheels called a gate. Now, these gates are part of when you dial the combination. The gates all line up, and there is a metal bar behind this lever, and it lines up all of these gates under the metal bar when you dial the correct combination. So that when you turn the dial and the drive cam, so the contact area is under the nose, everything can fall down and fit nice and easily. So here, you would just continue turning the dial, and that would pull in this lever, and that retracts a bolt. The lever is attached to the bolt, and that pulls it in so that you can turn the handle and open the safe. The handle of a safe just pulls in the outermost bolts around the edge of the door so that you can open it, but the lock itself only locks the handle. So that's basically how safes operate. Is the locking mechanism locks the handle, and the handle is what pulls in the bolts from the outer edge of the door. Now, to demonstrate that, I have a lock here, and if we look at the back, you can see the drive cam. Whenever I spin the dial, the drive cam moves with the dial. So if I were to dial in the combination, that would involve putting the gate of the first wheel under the fence, and then I would put the gate of the second wheel under the fence as well. I messed that up, but I will just fix it. And then I put the gate of the third wheel under the fence. Rotation. So the drive cam has that sort of protrusion as well. So right now everything is spinning together, but if I were to spin the other way, you can see it is only the drive cam spinning until I make one full rotation, and then this third wheel, the wheel closest to the drive cam, starts spinning with it. So the third wheel gets picked up first, and then after another full rotation, you can see that the second wheel starts to get picked up as well, and it is spinning along with it. After another rotation, then this third wheel, or this first wheel, gets picked up as well. And the wheels are named this way because the first wheel corresponds to the first number in the combination. Since it is the last to get picked up, then it is set first. So then you can freely mess about with the other two wheels without upsetting the position of that first one. So the third wheel gets picked up first, corresponding to the third number in the combination, then the second wheel, and then the first wheel. Now the standard opening procedure for a lock is to spin 4 times with left rotation to the first number, which means you pass the first number 3 times and you stop on the 4th. Then you reverse directions, because if you were to keep going, it would mess up the position of the first wheel. So you reverse directions, spin 3 times with right rotation, so now we're turning counterclockwise. Now we're turning, clockwise to the second number. And then you do that 3 times. So you pass the second number twice, stop on the third time. And then twice with counterclockwise rotation, so we're reversing rotation again to the final number. We pass it once, and then we stop on the second time. Then we turn right until the bolt is retracted. Now the reason for this is because you have to spin 3 times to ensure all the wheels are picked up. You don't know the state of this wheel pack when you approach the lock. So it could be someone spun it to the right all the way before you approached it. So you want to make sure you spin 1 full rotation, will pick up that third wheel. 2 full rotations picks up the second wheel. And then 3 full rotations ensures that that first wheel gets picked up. So we just passed the first number in the combination 3 times. So now we have to go to it and stop on the 4th time. We reverse directions because otherwise it would mess up the position of that first wheel. So we do 1 full rotation, pick up the third wheel. 2 full rotations, now we pick up the second wheel. And so we pass the second number twice, and we stop on the third time. And I overshot it again. Reverse directions, 1 full rotation picks up the third wheel, and then we stop on the second time. And then we can turn right till everything drops in and the bolt retracts. Here's a really bad drawing. I mislabeled this. This is wheel 2 in the middle. So the dial will turn the drive cam until this protrusion picks up wheel 3, and then after rotating for some time, wheel 3 will pick up wheel 2, and then wheel 2 after rotating will pick up wheel 1, and so then they'll all start spinning together. There's a lot of vulnerabilities in this design. So you can see here when none of the numbers are dialed in correctly, and then we turn the drive cam, we turn the dial so that the contact area is under the nose, that allows the fence to drop down onto the wheel pack, essentially testing it for the correct combination. But the thing is, these wheels, they're not perfectly circular, and they're not the same size as each other. Some will be bigger, some will be smaller, and some will have bumps and dips, and that's because of manufacturing tolerances. It's basically impossible to get rid of these imperfections. What this means is, since one of these wheels is bigger, the fence is not going to be resting on all of the wheels at the same time. You can see here, between wheel 3 and the fence, there's actually a bit of space. It's not touching. Wheel 2 here, you can see, is larger than wheel 3 and wheel 1. This fence is only touching wheel 2. Now, we can also see that this contact area, where the contact points are on either end, it is sloped to go down. And that means there is less wiggle room, so to speak, between the sides of the contact area the further down you go. So let's assume that wheel 2, let's pretend that the wheel 2 combination is dialed, that the gate for wheel 2 is now under this fence. What would happen? Well, this fence would not rest on wheel 2 anymore. It would drop down ever so slightly and rest on wheel 3. That means this nose would be lower in the contact area, and there's less wiggle room between the contact points. The really cool thing about this is you can feel this on the dial. So if I were to reset this, you can see that the nose drops into the contact area when it's over the contact area, and that allows the fence to rest onto the wheel pack. So if the largest wheel has the gate under the fence, this nose is lower, and so this wiggle room, you can feel this bit of resistance. You can feel each contact point from the dial. That wiggle room would be less. So the contact points, about 96 for the left one. We name it from viewing the dial, So the more sloped side here on the left in this view is the right contact point, because from the front of the safe, that's the right. Oops. So this left contact point is about 96, and the right contact point is about 3. But if perhaps 2 of the wheels were dialed with the gate under the fence, we might feel this at 98 and 2, thus the closer contact points, less wiggle room. So that is a major vulnerability and the main thing we use in order to determine the combination. So we can know through this when the gate of the largest wheel is under the fence, simply because there will be less wiggle room between the contact points. So the first step is finding a number in the combination with this information that we now have. So what we do is we have to take a series of test combinations every 2 or 2.5 numbers. The tolerances of these locks sometimes allow you to go every 2.5, but generally it is safer just to go every 2 numbers.
And I am back.
And there are 2 contact points, the left and the right, but as shown earlier, the right contact point is more sloped. So there will be a greater change in the amount of wiggle room from the right contact point. The left will move in a little bit, but not as much as the right. So we really only need to know what the right contact point is at any given time. And you can graph this as well. So if I get my graph paper right here, you can see this is a basic layout of a graph. So along the top we have 0 to 100, and then here I put the closest whole number to the left contact point, one above and one below. Same thing with the right contact point, one above and one below. And as I mentioned, you don't really need the left contact point, but it is good supporting evidence if the right contact point is not really giving clear readings, which we will cover later. So you can graph both of the contact points like this. So first thing is you want to turn the dial left 3 times to pick up all of the wheels.
So I don't know which
and then
one he recommended,
stop
but
on the first reading.
if
So
you're
we
willing
used
to
say
shell out
0
like
to
$120,
Now,
Sparrows,
the reason
which
we
we'll look at in a
spin
moment,
and
has
pick
a
up
very
all the
good
left rotation
practice safe to work
is
on that's designed for
because
beginners and you
the
can remove
combination
different
is
reels and stuff. I'll
bound
post
or
that
is
link later.
dialed with left, right, and then left rotation. So left to the first number, right to the second, and then left to the third. So if we find a number, it's kind of random. We don't really know which wheel is going to be at first, right? We just know one of the wheels is larger than the rest, and we want to figure out when that wheel has a gate under the fence. So it's just, statistics that it's going to be more likely the first and the third rather than the second. Also, because of the way the locks are designed, wheel 3 would generally be larger, or will be the wheel that makes contact with the fence first. So that's more evidence to start with, more reason to start with left rotation first. So what we do is we spin the dial, pick up all the wheels with left rotation, and then we stop at our first test combination. So in this case, that would be 0, 0, 0. So we stop at 0. And then what we do is we want to reverse directions, because if we were to keep going, that would mess up the position of the wheels. So we reverse directions until we get within the contact area. So remember, our contact points are 96 and 3. So we want to spin left until we're within that. We don't want to pass 0, because remember, after one full rotation, we pick up the third wheel. So we just want to go between 0 and 3.
And no one wants to be at the third wheel.
And then you just spin. I accidentally passed it, but we'll ignore that for now. You want to gently spin the dial left until you hit the contact point. And you don't want to ride up on it. You don't want the nose to ride up onto the drive cam. You just want to go lightly and stop when you feel that bit of resistance, and then you can record that. So on the graph, at 0 down to 3, let's say we feel at 2 7/8. Then you can mark that from here, 2 7/8 for 0. Okay, so that can be about here. And that is also really important, is you want to be able to differentiate between 1/8 of an increment. And that's really hard to show on camera here for this, because it's not really precise, and also the resolution of the camera. But you want to be able to look at the dial and know whether it is showing like a 2 7/8 or a 3, or a 35 1/8 and a 35 2/8. And you want to be able to accurately record that, because what we're looking for is a change of a 1/4 increment. So we want to make sure that our measurements are taken with a precision of 1/8 of an increment, just to be safe. So, whoops. Okay, so we're going to pretend that we did this for the entire I guess all the numbers of the safe. So if I were just to fill it in just with some random points, and I'm just putting a generic reading here. And as stated earlier, you can record the left contact point here as well. It's just that it's not going to be as much of a variation. So here, essentially what we're doing is we are taking the overall shape of all the wheels, of the wheel pack, and we're just laying it out in a line. So if this were to be cut into a strip of paper and put into a circle, this is what the wheel pack would look like on a very fine scale. Because remember, they're not perfectly circular, so on a very fine scale, there's a lot of bumps and ridges and whatnot. Now, if you remember,
I just posted Sparrow's practice safe in chat.
The close-up, when the gate of the largest wheel is under the fence, that causes a drop, right? There's less wiggle room. that right contact point moves in, so it gets lower. The left contact point would get higher. So that's essentially what we're looking for on the graph. We're looking for where the right contact point drops down for maybe a number or two and then goes back up, because the gate would be under the fence and then you would go past it and then would not be under the fence anymore. So it would drop down and go up. So essentially you want to look for the shape of a gate in this reading. Now you can see there's a drop here, but it goes on for a little while before going up, so that's probably not it. That'd be really wide for a gate. But here you can see it drops down for a quarter of an increment for 2 readings and then drops back up. The thing about these safes is, these safe locks, is you don't have to be precise in dialing. That is also why we go every 2 numbers. You go from 0, 2, and then 4, every line here on this graph. So if the combination is 16, 28, 40, you can dial 17 or maybe 18, 28, 40, and it would still open. So you want to look for the shape of the gate in the graph, and that will tell you one of the middle of that gate will tell you one of the numbers in the combination. Now we're going to assume that the number we found is 40. So at this point we know that,
by the way, in like
in the lock is
10 or so minutes, I'm going to switch to a
has
bypass
a
talk.
combination of 40 associated with it. Okay, but we don't know which wheel yet. We just know that there's one of the wheels in the lock is larger than the others, and the point at which the contact area goes closer together and then further apart centers around 40. So we do something called the high-low test. We put 10 numbers lower on the first wheel, and then we put the other 2 wheels on the correct number. So we're pretending we found 40 as the correct number. So we will throw the first wheel off by 10 numbers lower. Now, we found 40 with left rotation. So whenever we put one of the wheels on 40, it always has to be with left rotation. So the first number, we will use right rotation to 30. We pick up the wheels, all the wheels, so 4 rotations, 230 with right rotation, and then we spin left 3 times to 40. So that would put the second and third wheel on 40. And we will measure the contact area here. And here it is important to take both left and right contact points, and then what you want to do is figure out the space between them. So if it is at 96 and 3, that is a 7 number difference. So we would write down 7, and we would record that down. And then we do the same with the second wheel. We put the first number on the correct on the correct number, so left to 40, left 4 times to 40, and then we go right 3 times to 30, putting the second wheel, throwing it off by 10 lower to the wrong number, and then left to 40 on the third wheel. Record the space between the contact points, how many numbers there are, and then write that down. Now we do that again for the third wheel. Left rotation 4 times to 40, and right twice to 30. That ensures that only one number is off. The other 2 wheels are on the correct number. And then you can repeat with 50 as well instead of 30, so that would be the high test. Now, the test combination with the widest contact area is the one that 40 belongs to. So, for instance, we did 3 test combinations here for this low test. If for this last sequence that we dialed, 40, 40, 30, if that has the contact area with the most space between it. Now, normally before we were looking for closer contact points, but here we're looking for furthest apart. And the reason for that is because we have the correct number on the wheel, on 2 of the wheels, and the wrong one on 1 of the wheels. So if the wrong one is on, let's say here, let's say the third wheel has 40. So if we're intentionally putting on the wrong number, it's going to be a wider contact point. But see, in these 2, it's got the correct number, so it'll be closer. So this allows us to figure out which wheel that 40 belongs to, simply by putting the correct number on each wheel twice, and then having it off on one of these. So if this wheel, if wheel 3 has 30, and it's wider here than the other two tests, then we can successfully conclude that 40 belongs to the third wheel, the third number in the combination. And then you can, repeat with 50 just to really be sure that your readings are correct. So we're going to assume that 40 here is the third number in the combination. And then, check your rotation. Anytime you dial to a correct number, you want to make sure you always use the correct rotation. Now we found one of the numbers in the combination, and we know it's the third wheel. So, in order to find the other numbers, we essentially just repeat the same step with this new information added in. So, we run the other two wheels through every 2 increments, but we have the third wheel on 40 whenever we read the contact point. So the way that this is done is, we know that the third wheel, right, the first wheel that gets picked up, that means we have to set it last. That is with left rotation to 40. So what we want to do is we want to pick up all the wheels with right rotation now, and then we'll say let's start at 0, and then we spin left for 1 rotation, so that picks up just the third wheel, and we stop on 40. So now we have left rotation on 40. Now going to 0 isn't going to affect any of the wheels now, remember, because we have to pick up the third wheel in order to affect the rest. So we can safely...
It's just like real life dating.
Without fear of disturbing the other wheels. So we can read the contact point again. Going from inside the contact area, we can read the right contact point and then graph it. So we would just do this graph, and at the top we can maybe just write wheel 3 left 40, just so we know that we're doing this graph with wheel 3 on 40 with left rotation. And then what you can do now is you turn right until you reach 40. Now that picks up the third wheel. Go to 0 where the other 2 wheels are resting together, and that picks up wheels 2 and wheels 1 at the same time. Because remember, we had everything picked up together. We only messed up wheel 3 in order to put it on 40 by itself. You can turn 2 numbers over, spin left again 1 full rotation to 40, go to the contact area, and report it down again. And we just go do that the whole way around. So here we can repeat the same high-low exercise. So we're going to pretend we found a drop in the graph and then a rise back up at centered around 80. So we found 80 with right rotation now. So what we're going to do here is a low test. Okay, so we're going to start with here wheel 2, and we're going to throw it off by 10 onto 70. So wheel 1, we put it on the correct number, 80 with right rotation. So that means we spin right, picking up all the wheels, stopping on 80. Then we spin left, picking up wheels 3 and 2, so we go 3 times to 70. And then here's where it gets interesting. We need to go to 40 now with left rotation because we found...
So fun fact, in Clifton, New Jersey, there was a super famous safecracker in America who had a very similar thing. I've never met him. People had mixed opinions about him personality-wise, but he died a couple of years ago, and he had a very public funeral. Otherwise, I'd have him on either Master of Unlocking or an in-person DCG 201 meeting. Maybe I'll interview his folks in the future. Who knows?
What we found to be...
Are you from Germany? We're Hacking Live.
Rotation.
Great username, by the way.
Wheel 3, another rotation, picking up wheel 2.
We're going to switch over in 4
minutes.
minutes.
With left rotation on 70, so that is 10 lower. And then we want to go to 40 now for the third wheel. But if we were to keep going, it would mess up wheel 2 on 70. So what we do is we can reverse directions here, pick up wheel 3 from 70. Go to 40, but remember this is not the correct rotation. We're turning right. We need to be turning left. So we just go past it, let's say to 30, and then we can go left. Picking up at 30, setting wheel 3 on 40. At which point we take our contact point readings for our high-low test. And then again you would write down the number of increments, you know, the space between each of the contact points. And then do that with the first wheel. We throw the first wheel off by 10. So we go left to 70 for the first wheel, picking up all the wheels, and then right 3 times to 80 and the left to 40. So we write down the numbers. Again, we look at what is the widest contact area, and that will give us where our second number lies, like which wheel it belongs to. And usually locks will read this way. It will read third wheel first, and then the second wheel, and then the first. But sometimes it can go other ways. But following this method, it doesn't really matter which wheel reads first, as long as you know how to dial in these numbers.
Ah, yes, our fine German folks at the SS Devs. There's, from what I understand, there's a little bit of a rivalry between Tool, Norway, and US from SS Devs, but all lockpickers are usually really friendly, and we learn from everyone. Plus, you guys have an intermediate distatainer practice lock that I really want to import, so yeah. And also the SS Dev hooks at some point.
And the last wheel, you can graph it, but generally you just brute force it.
I'll be right back. I need to do one more bit of adulting, and then we're going to look at a lock bypass video from
until it
DEFCON.
opens. When you're starting out, it is tight, and you will be able to find the correct number.
Jeez, did the stream dip again? I apologize. I don't know what's going on here.
Now, another popular brand is Lagarde, the Lagarde 3330.
2 more minutes and we'll switch over. Sorry about that, everybody.
And the reason for that is because of the way that inside the wheels work. There's a certain mechanism that allows you to change the combination, and that puts pressure on the wheels in certain ways, and that just makes it slightly more oval shaped, which means the wheels can essentially mask the gates on other wheels. Maybe none of the wheels are, you know, bigger than the others, but they can be aligned that when they're all picked up and they're all moving together.
Yeah, pretty much. Welcome to DCG 201's crazy New Jersey time zone scheduling.
The wheel pack in that location, and that gate is never.
But no, once it reaches 1036 on my end, Eastern Standard Time, we're switching over.
One of the other wheels will be larger in that area. And so it can be rather difficult to work with a Lagarde 3330. So I do not recommend starting out with that. There is also a Diabole, which is a lock with a drive cam where instead of having one side that's more slanted, it will be a U-shape, more uniform U-shape. And so in the case of a Diabole Group 2, you want to take both contact points into account, since there will be less variation in each. You want to take both into account and look at the left going up and the right contact point going down. Whoops. Now some final tips is you want to be really precise in dialing. You want to not just read it in 1/8 of an increment, but you want to dial to 1/8 of an increment. You want
so yeah, no, I'm going to let him do the final tips and then we'll move on. I didn't realize his talk was going to go by this fast, so I know that's what she said, but let's let him talk.
Every 2 increments. So maybe the combination is 15. You don't want to go 16 and 1/8 and have it not open, but maybe on 16 you can detect it. You can detect that it's the correct number, but not 16 and 1/8. You want to make sure you're reading the dial from the same angle each time. So if you're looking at the safe lock, you want to make sure you are reading from the same angle. Let's say you're reading it from this angle this time. You don't want to look at it like this, as that will change where you think that contact point is. So you want to make sure you're really consistent, especially also with the amount of force that you use. You want to make sure it's the lightest possible, and you want to make sure it is the same each time. So you want to be really consistent in everything you do. You can also try it with a known combination. You can, let's say you know the combination is 20, 40, 60. Well, you can test at 20, 40, and 60. You don't have to graph the entirety of the dial. So just to be able to detect how the contact point feels when one of the gates is under the fence and how it feels when it's not. You can graph from, let's say, 10 to 30, and then 10 above and 10 below each of the numbers, 20, 40, and 60, so that you can tell how the graph is supposed to look. And that is a very, very useful practice to do. You can also remove the back cover of the lock so that you know exactly what's happening, and you can really correlate what you're feeling with what is happening inside the lock. And then, if all else fails, you can buy my book. Well, not really. I put it online for free, so it is on Amazon, but I don't recommend it unless you really want a hard copy. There's a PDF I have uploaded at this link down here, and you can download it and basically just do whatever you want with it. I don't care. Now, on YouTube, I have a video series that follows the book. It's similar to this talk, but it's a lot more in-depth. So, it covers different sections that I have covered here in this talk, but with much greater detail, and I also cover additional more advanced techniques in order to figure out the combination faster and with greater precision. There's online forums, such as this link at the bottom here points to keypicking.com, and they are very welcoming to newcomers as long as you are able to show that you are not trying to use this knowledge for criminal activities and you are interested in this as a hobby. I mean, people are very welcoming. eBay.
My URL is going to be off. I'll try to get a better one later, but I'm going to put this one in and you can figure it out.
6730 or 6741. You can also just search up SNG 6700 series. And just practice. I mean, practice is the best way to learn. I mean, you can read and watch all the content on safecracking and understand everything that's happening, but you cannot develop the touch for feeling the contact point. You don't develop the sight for reading the contact point unless you actually practice. And I also just remembered I forgot to mention this picture here. So in order to read the contact points and dial it more accurately, you can take a piece of paper or maybe a needle or anything and tape it onto the dial and the dial ring just to be able to more precisely pinpoint what is on the dial. And that is the end of this presentation.
Awesome. Very awesome for this dude. That was Safecracking 101 at the Tool Lockpicking Village at DEFCON 29. I think they were going to do a Q&A part, but we're going to skip that for now. Yeah, that was a lot more than I wanted to know. It's pretty nuts because, again, I'm getting into learning safecracking, but from the stuff that I've done, even on full-size safes, if you want to start at home, honestly, the best way is to just get one of these crappy master lock dialers. I don't really know what part number they are. It's usually a really long number, but everyone's seen these. This happens to be pink. They usually come in black. You see these on high schools and college dorms and all sorts of stuff. And there's a whole thing about decoding them. In fact, I have a video where we talked about bypasses and combination locks. And so you can always go back to that one to show the technique. But what I can do is I, honest to God, can't remember what the combo of this one is. I could actually quickly... we'll see how fast, using the technique, how fast I can actually decode this, okay? So I don't have like a timer or anything up. I just thought this would be a fun thing to do, and then we will go to, which I'll bring up right here, the Lock Bypass Village. In fact, let's go into face mode so you have a better giant screen of this. So here we go. So I'm going to try to do the technique I'm going to do, and everyone can time out how fast I can do this, okay? All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, first number found. Okay, second number found. Hopefully this is not too sticky and not that way. Okay, we're going to attempt to open it now. Open. So that was literally without me not knowing what the combo was of like if I was in the field. I might on certain days, depending on what convenience store I'm leaving, might do that faster. I might do this slower. But that is how fast I just tried on cam, just winged it and figured out the combo of this guy. You could literally hand me almost any of these that are unmodified because some people like to be an asshole and somehow, even though you'd have to show the lock by do this, fucks around with this and then give it to me, and I think it's simple and it's like, you asshole. But that's how fast I can decode on one of these things. And the thing is, it's very similar with the three wheels. I'm going left, right, left. There's a whole math. There's not really much math in here. It's more of a dial method, but you basically enlarge this. And you put much more robust security features, and that's like most safes. And so I'm learning how to for full-size dials because it's a slightly different feel of how to do that. But if you want a miniature version of just getting used to doing the different wheels, the dials, and the methods, get one of those crappy master locks that you get at any convenience store or hardware store for like $3 to $8, and you're good. So let's go on to the Bypass Village. The Bypass Village is the other interesting. Now, sometimes the Rogues Village has a lockpicking element. And also because Deviant Olem wasn't in this year, from what I understood, the core group, I believe, was not at Black Hat this year. So that's usually where you find lockpicking at Black Hat. And that's why I haven't brought Black Hat up. Let's see. Do you have chims or an old dissect you can chim it to? I don't know what a chim is. I might be misreading that because I do want to eat dinner in about like 2 hours because I already have it done. I can smell it all the way here. That's why you can't smell through the screen. But all that sort of stuff. Oh, I could give you the links to the Rogue Village because it's up right now. Let's see. So the Rogue Village, it's one of these. Hang on. Adversary. I hope I didn't like accidentally like close it. Here we go. So the Rogues Village is kind of fascinating. It's kind of like, this is a semi-third wheel to like a lot of lockpicking stuff. And basically, you ever seen like Brian Brushwood and Scam School and stuff? These are, there's a bunch of hackers. It's not as common as they were back in the 90s, but there's a bunch of hackers who are very interested in illusionary works, aka like magic, stage magic and stuff like that. Sleight of hand. And also just like being a rogue, like how do you like prep for things without being a stereotypical prepper and stuff. And so a bunch of these sort of magicians who normally go to DEFCON once in a while every year were like, hey, there's enough of us. Let's make a village on just like all the odd physical security, sleight of hand, unscrupulous stuff that's like kind of a mix between like Tool and the social engineering village. And let's put them all in one thing. And so a bunch of magicians, including Brian Brushwood himself, formed the Rogues Village. Very scaled back this year. I think it was all digital this year. It was all digital last year, but particularly they scaled this back because last year they had like a whole lineup of talks, everything. This year, which I think was a really talk, was Vic, the whole talk about bogus biometrics that they did on their YouTube channel, and then Daniel Roy did like the neuroscience of magic, very biological themes this year. I will say this year, medical and biohacking, for obvious reasons, we're still going through the plague, was huge this year, as well as Apple getting completely fucked over on everything because Apple literally went, hey, look, there's a beehive labeled hackers and hardware right to repair people. I'm going to stick my dick in it. And then when Shock Pikachu faced that, they blew the U1 chip open, the M1 chip, everything on Mac software and hardware is completely blown open after today. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits going on. And they had just a Q&A the day later on Twitter. And they had this like, they worked with Monero and the Intervillage people to make their own sort of like rogue, like a little rogue-like adventure game and stuff like that. And sometimes like they've had DIY lockpicks and stuff like that there. And that's the Rogues Village. Hopefully, if more things, if Delta stays in its lane, we can come back more physically next year. That can be an avenue that we can all go on. Who knows? Maybe I'll submit something myself. But anyhow, let's go back to the Lock Bypass Village. This was the second big thing. All virtual this year. They also have a very specific. They also have a very spiffy website. I'm going to put that in the this thing. Hack the villages. I think that's just general DEFCON. We've had a few ideas for villages over the years. I could actually quickly go through them all. So now I was not the only person to come up with this idea. One of the ideas I was really pushing was having a cannabis village. And I'm not going to go into every single thing that happened that year. This was at DEFCON 26. I'll put it this way. There used to be members of DCG 201 who are not members anymore. Don't worry, it wasn't like we kicked them out. They left on their own accord. A bunch of us are still friends. And they decided independently to do the cannabis village. So they did it without me. Now, just my background, I've always supported legal cannabis. I can't, because of the way Twitch is, I can't confirm or deny that I've consumed it. I am not a pothead, okay? I am not like one of those like stoners with like a giant like trippy like blanket on the wall and like licking puzzle pieces. I'm not that type of person. It's just, to me, you know, it's like alcohol does way worse things. So why is this? You know, this to me is like it's like making drinking turpentine illegal, but like banning lollipops. It makes no goddamn sense in terms of like the lethality. I mean, hell, people are eating Tide Pods, you know? I also, by the way, another fun thing about the Lockpick Village logo, if you look, okay? A lot of people don't know this, okay? So I'm actually going to see if I can open the image in a new window. Let's see. Can I do that? Link in a new tab. Unfortunately, I can't open the image in a new tab. Maybe I might be able to drag and drop the image into something else. And maybe right here or something. No, that just brought the link. I'm done. But, okay, so you know what I'll do? I'll see. Let's see if I can zoom in and keep making the logo bigger. Here we go. So this is going to be really fun. So look at this logo. So there's like a little guy running through the door. It says LBV for Lockpicking Village. What's an odd thing that you've noticed about the logo? Can anyone spot the thing? Yep, Warhack did it. The shim. Bonus points. What type of shim is hidden in this logo? And then I'll point it out. Does anyone know? There's a specific shim. It's very clever. I'm shocked how many people don't know this. It's kind of like the arrow in the FedEx logo. Like, once you know this, you won't be able to unsee it. But there's a particular type of shim. It might be named a different. Yes, you named it at the actual technical term. Some people call it a Slim Jim is like the slang name. Particularly, I think that might be a United States only thing. But yes, is a latch bypass or a latch slipper. That's what this thing. So a lot of people think this is just the doors, like the light coming through the door, but that's actually the shape. And actually, I can go to Sparrow's website. Let's go to Sparrow's website and quickly look at what this is. GI Jack has one of these. I unfortunately do not have one yet, although I'm in the process of getting one of these. It's less even about money right now. It's more of just everything in the mail is being held up right now. But if we go to their bypass tools section, they have it in here, and they actually have different variants. So this is the full size one with the giant handle. Okay, so Jack's lending me his, but I will also show the images on here. So this is kind of this is not this one. This is the quick gym. This is one with this full size embroidered handle. It's about like a foot long, and basically there's different contact points depending on the door. I did an episode about this when I did bypasses where GI Jack lent this to me because I didn't have one yet, kind of like now, where like you have this front curve side here where it's basically depends on the gap between the door frame and the door with the latch, and depending on how the latch is faced, you can do different things with this gym. So like if the curve is facing towards you, so that it's curving away from you, and the curve is like towards you, and there's a space, you might be able to use this to push through and push that latch over, and that way the door opens and you don't have to pick the lock. If the curve's facing away from you and it's curving outwards, right, you might be able to slip behind this and then grab and then pull that curve, making it flat, and then open it as well. You can also do that on the other side for much more like a low profile of those type of latches if the latch is small and not beefy enough, which would kind of defeat the purpose of this guy. But Sparrow sells like the full-size ones here, and they also sell two variants. The one that I have in my ham is the mini gym, which is what I'm eventually going to get. I'm probably going to take this rope part off. And basically is literally, it's the same dimension, size, and everything as the full-size one. It's just they just basically took the handle off so it's shorter, and you can actually like fit it inside of an average lockpick kit instead of having a foot of it stick out of your pants. That, you know, I mean, some people are into that, but whatever. And then they sell a very interesting variant called the Mole Gym, or Molly Gym, or whatever how you want to call it. I call it Mole Gym because every time I talk to GIs, I call it Mole Straps and Mole System. And if you've ever seen mole straps on like actual military gear, or when they sell tactical items on the civilian market, basically it has a bunch of grooves in it so it can fit into those straps, and that way you don't have to put it in their Ranger case or a separate lockpicking case. You can just put it in your mole straps and just walk with it, and it's not going to fall out or anything. And as I posted in the link earlier, I'm gonna put the bypass on the corner of the table here if Jack wants to take it back or not. Sparrow sells a thing called a challenge vault. So if you have $130 to blow, and you basically want a miniaturized safe with a full-size professional dial and everything, with instructions and how to, like, you can actually start off with just one wheel lever and move up. You can basically learn how to crack safes. This is something eventually I want to get. I'm probably going to get this at the end of my training kit because when it's really big and heavy, I can't put it in like my normal carry case and stuff like that. But this is something I definitely like. This, if you want to get me a Christmas present, like, get me that. I mean, there's a bunch of other things I want too, in terms of lockpick stuff, but like that would be the most high price because like I will basically be indebted for you forever. And I will put a link to that mini gym in the chat right now. And yeah, and also there's the Sophie show, and there's a thank you for posting that link of the safe cracking game. It's funny you bring that up because I'm actually going to check something that the Lock Bypass Village might have brought back. So yeah, and they did. So they have a similar website to they have that last year. They just have completely new talks. They did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for their schedules. They were on Twitch. It was really freaking awesome. And so they kept repeating, just like the same way Tool has Lockpicking 101, they kept doing Bypass 101, they had their own DY Tool section, but again, instead of single pin picking and lock mechanisms in terms of like the tumbler, they're focused on the rest of the lock, they're focused on the actuator, they're focused on the door latch, hence the gyms and the latch bypasses. They're interested in electronic stuff, so they also have they did an intro to RFID hacking, retail security stuff, as I said here, software-defined radio, which has nothing to do with like physical picks and stuff like that, alarm bypass, and then the other cool thing, similar to the link that he pointed into, they kind of made their own like hilarious flash games. And speaking of the gym, they should have the latch slipping simulator. And this is interesting because this is kind of like a crazy video game thing. So, all right, so I'm gonna pull the gym out. This is odd because it's like 2D, but I'm managing 3D space. So we have the gym here. Now you see that? There's like a curve here. The curve is not curving around. It's not curving away from towards us. The curve is curving away from us. So we can't see, as you can see, it's butting its head here. Like we can't go underneath and we can't go in the front. If this curved in the front, we could push this latch back. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go up and over the latch, and then we're going to go down, right? And then we're going to, so O is to attempt to open the door, and P is to push the door further in the frame, so it's a kind of a weird balance here. So we're literally going to be OP doing this, and I did this once before, but this was literally last year, and it took me forever to figure out how the controls work, so let's find out. So we're going to pull, so you see, as I pull back, it's going on the curvature of the latch. Because most latches have curves to make the doors opening easier, unless you live in Russia where it's just straight off deadbolts and like vodka you can use as gasoline for your car. So I'm pulling back on the latch, right? But it can only go so far. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna push a little bit up. So we slipped there, okay? So now we're gonna open the door further here. I'm gonna pull back. I'm gonna go around again, and what we have to do is I believe, pull back as we attempt to push the door further in the frame. So here we go. So it's like, did I do it? I think we got it open. Just my controls are off. Ah, okay. Let me regroup this here. Let's see. So we're gonna pull the door back in, right? And we're gonna go, and then it's like, what's going on? Ah! See, it's like I've run out of... You know what? Here's an idea. Maybe it's because I've made this too big. It's too big. She can't take it. So yeah, let's try this again. So I'm sorry that the image is smaller, but let's do this. So we're on the latch, and I'm going to hit P to push the door Sorry, O to, let's see. So we're going to pull the door back, and we're going to push P, and we're going to pull back at the same time. Here we go. And that, let's see, so that basically did it. So I think I have to do P and then O. Yep, there we go. And then I pulled the back, and the latch slipped, and now the door is open. The runaway door now. It's just going to keep going. Sounds way faster than what I did last year. Plus, I've done this in real life now. It's just doing this with mouse controls kind of drives me insane, you know? For all of you who are wondering about the door latch, that's basically how that works. We can do another game in a bit, but first, because I do want to get into the locks that nearly killed me, let's look at a lock bypass village talk. And so, here's my question, since this is the topic that I've covered the least. Do you want to do Bypass 101? DIY tools, RFID hacking. I don't think we're going to do the TikTok thing today. No software defined radio, or do we want to learn alarm bypass? What do we want to do, chat? Which things do we want to do? Yep, we got an open on that earlier. So yeah, now's the Bypass Village games. I'm going to check out the other safe cracking one though. So I think that I was just glad that you brought up the whole thing of the games, because I think that's the coolest thing that the lock lock bypass village. I wish that, you know, honestly, the Lock Bypass Village should reach out to Tool to see if we can make those similar type of games, maybe with a bit more robust, like web GL sort of thing, for like the normal pin tumbler locks, and maybe even like variants such as tubular locks with impressioners and disc detainers and all sorts of magical stuff. I'm trying to figure out where the heck did my big giant turning tool go. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let chat attempt to decide which one do they want to do. And again, we can either do Bypass 101, DIY tools, RFID hacking, or alarm bypass. And if I don't hear anything in about a minute, in about like 2 to 3 minutes, I'm just going to choose for everybody. In the meantime, I'm going to let people know that, again, thank you for watching. This is streamed on is going a hell of a lot longer than I originally thought it was going to go. And that's what she said. And we got one for DIY tools, so if anyone else wants to vote, let me know. And, oh God, so I might have to be the tiebreaker here. We have 3 different people saying 3 different things. Oh, man, that's what I get for this. Does anyone want to be the tiebreaker in there? Anybody? As I say that, thank you for watching Master of Unlocking. We're not done yet. We're over halfway done. We're going to watch one bypass video, maybe do one game, and then we're going to go over to the locks that nearly killed me. G.I. Jack, I think, did the tiebreaker. I was actually leaning more towards the alarm bypass, but we'll do DIY tools. G.I. Jack being the big tiebreaker he is. I have actually expected him to come out in like a referee costume, just be like, tiebreaker! But thank you for watching Master of Unlocking. If you like the content that you see so far, if you want to catch the next episode, which will be on the 3rd Sunday of this month, so that would be on the 22nd. If you want to catch my other show, Crypto Barons, which will happen 2nd and 4th Saturday of the month, which will be the 14th and the 28th, or our meeting on the 20th, as well as other shows done by DCG 201 members, such as Archvile Link's Perspective on the 3rd Thursday of this month, and the random episodes that we do, Circuit Breakers, among our specials and things like what we did for DEFCON. You can like, share, subscribe completely for free on Twitch, DLive, or YouTube. On Twitch, at the end, we're going to go and raid another channel. On DLive, please, if you have a DLive account, follow us for free. 2 more people, and we get to upgrade our account for free, and we get to do a lot more stuff. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. If you're on YouTube, I apologize. And you get alerts for that, and we also get notifications, and I can hear the blips and stuff, and we'll cheer you on. So, you don't have one. What do you don't have? You don't have pants? Because we always have a very bad lack of pants in this household here, so I have no idea what you don't have. I can make endless jokes about that, but I'm not going to, because I don't want to get we don't get money from this by like using Ceremonies demonetized or booted off the platform, our live stream platform. So without further ado, because there was a tiebreaker and you all voted for it, let's take a look at DIY tools. This should be a nice. I don't know if we'll see the whole thing, but we'll definitely check out half an hour of DIY, making your DIY tools, and then we're going to take a very short break. And then I'm going to attempt to talk about the story about the locks that nearly killed me. I just realized I probably should have did the locks that nearly killed me, on a completely different episode, because I didn't realize that we would spend this much on the DEFCON stuff. But I'm still going to do the locks that maybe killed me. Maybe I'll do a follow-up episode next time, because I do each episode bit by bit as things come in the mail and things that I buy on a shelf. So, you know, I'm not really always sure what the next episode is. Unlike Crypto Barons, where I have everything rigorously designed. But anyhow, let's look at DIY tools from the Bypass Village and see what they were up to. Okay, so let's check this out. Also, real quick, again, if I love talking to you all in chat. You guys have been great so far. You key pins and driver pins have been really awesome in chat. If anyone has any questions or comments that aren't being told ass hat trolls, just shout them out. I love talking with you guys, even if we're watching a video. If you're just here to learn or just creepily watch me as I do weird arm motions off screen back and forth, as I always say, keep lurking and keep learning. But let's learn some DIY tools, shall we, from the Bypass Village at DEFCON 29 this year. This is gonna be fun because unlike Tool, they did these in chunks, so I'm probably gonna have to jump around and find this. This is gonna be neat, and hopefully the stream doesn't crash again.
Communications around the earth. Here on the bottom. Yes, that's perfect.
We're gonna be jumping around a bit, so hang on.
Oops, sorry.
Ensure that the dead latch isn't actuated, you want to place the latch slip tool behind the latch. And then you start wiggling the latch.
Okay, I'm sorry that the stream kept dipping in and out there. From what I figured out, we might have a little bit of difficulty. We might have to choose, I might have to be the second tiebreaker and choose a completely different talk topic because right now I can't find the DIY tools thing. So let's keep going and hoping for the best here. Alright, I think I'm going to unfortunately have to be the tiebreaker here, so I'm either going to choose the alarm bypass or the bypassing 101 because apparently on the Twitch archive they don't have the DIY tools. I apologize for that. That was not up to me. Again, all these talks in about 2 to 4 months will be up on DEFCON's own YouTube page, so we'll probably recheck those out at a future date. But let's just find a talk here. If everything doesn't work, then I'll just take a short break and then we'll go right into the locks that nearly killed me. So here we go. Sorry for the streaming keep going now. If it does that one more time, I'm just going to go, we'll take a short break and go into the next section here. I apologize. This is one of the reasons why I like that tool. They have these like half an hour to hour breaks between all their talks, and when a talk starts and stops, they end the stream in terms of, like they put on a standby mode, and then they just end the stream itself. And that way, each talk is its own chunk, and that's why we haven't had these dips during it. A lot of villages, including the Bypass Village, and it's not me making fun of the Bypass Village or being angry at them, it's just a reality, did their stream as all one chunk, kind of like what we did, but at least ours was a potpourri thing. And because of that, that means they has to load all this video, stream all this video data at the same time, the same pipeline that we're streaming, and that causes issues. We are working a workaround. Eventually, we're going to have another computer that it will be another workhorse, and then basically we're going to mirror that computer on here and stream over. But we'll try to watch the alarm bypassing thing, and if it dips again, We'll just stop the video there, say, hey, we did a good college try, take a small break, and then we're going to go to the Elmo and look at, I'll tell the stories about the locks that almost killed me. So here we go. Let's try to do the alarm bypass one last time. 8 times the charm here at TCG 201. Here we go.
Hello, welcome to the Lock Bypass Village, and we're going to talk about alarms and access control doors. This talk is somewhat
Canadian,
condensed
a boat.
version of the one I gave last year, and it goes hand in hand with a main track talk I'm giving this year on specifically the communications lines that exist in alarm systems and how to hack those. So this talk is a higher level general survey of the other technologies that are present and how to handle that. We'll also talk in a bit more detail about access control doors. So my name is Bill Graydon, and somewhat fittingly, my Twitter handle is Access Control, and we'll run through that now. So when we think about a door, we have in its most simplest something that can open up and reveal a hole.
Goddamn Canadians and their bypasses.
We need to have some means of authenticating who is trying to get in, and some physical means of opening or holding that door locked, and then a controller to make that decision and actuate the locking mechanism. We can add an alarm element to it by detecting when the door gets opened. And that way, if the door is opened and we didn't have a valid credential read or some other authentication, we can send an alarm and trigger a response. The problem is, if someone's exiting that door, then that will trigger an alarm. And so to fix that, we add a request to exit sensor, which could be a button or a passive infrared sensor like this that will detect someone on the secure side waiting to leave, and if the door is then detected to be open, it will not trigger an alarm. There's a couple other elements to the system that are relevant. So there has to be a communications line out from the controller so that when an alarm happens, it can send it to some external party to trigger a response. There also has to be a communications line in so that we can program the controller. We can tell it what cards to accept, what users to authenticate. We can revoke users. We can tell it, say, if the building is going to have public open hours, when those are going to be, etc. Looking at some of the technologies available for the different aspects of the system. Authentication can be done with various technologies of card reader. So we have our RFID, which is common now, as well as some older technologies such as magnetic stripe or biometric, like a fingerprint reader, something that the user knows, so entering a code, or even having a human authenticate through a video doorbell and make that go or no-go decision. In terms of allowing or denying access physically, we can have a magnetic strike, which is the most common, and that will open up and let this flap move when the door needs to be unlocked. A magnetic lock will physically hold the door shut, so these parts, one go on the frame, one goes on the door, and that will hold that locked when needed. We can have an electronically controlled lock set, a turnstile, or a vehicle entry gate. Technologies available for sensing when the door is opened include magnetic detectors, which is by far the most common, and so we see 3 different styles here. These 2 get mounted on the frame, ideally on the secure side of the door, and this one gets mounted inside of the frame. We might use an optical-based sensor, a position-sensing hinge, or even a mechanical switch that gets pushed in when the door is closed. For detecting when someone's trying to exit, again, most commonly we have passive infrared-based detectors looking for the human body, black body radiation spectrum, but it might also be a button, or pushing the panic hardware will indicate to the controller that someone's trying to leave. And in very secure installations, it might be another card reader, so you have to badge in and out. Of course, in those cases, there'll be an override button as well, but that might trigger an alarm. So here's what those might look like in the field. We have a request to exit sensor mounted up here, and a magnetic door contact sensor mounted in the frame. This is the magnet that goes with it, so it's mounted in the door, and when the door is closed, that magnet is near the sensor, and it detects that that door is secured. There's a couple other elements that we can add to this system to make it a little bit more robust. So we might have a key switch, so a guard or an authorized user can go and determine, is this building open hours or not. We can have accessibility buttons, and usually the one on the inside will unlock the door as well as cause the door opener to open it. And we have a tie-in to the fire system. Particularly when a mag lock is used, that must be unlocked by the controller, and therefore if there's a fire situation, that must unlock to allow egress if that door is in any path of egress. And so the fire system gets tied into our security system that way. We also need to power all of these elements. So now that we understand the elements of an access control system, to hack it, we can attack any one of these components or power lines or communications lines in the system. So first with power. If we cut power to a mag lock, it will unlock. If we cut power to a reader, it will no longer be able to read, and that will then effectively be in denial of service to the system. And if we cut power to the network or to the access controller, it will have undefined behavior. Usually it's fail secure, but again, it will be certainly denial of service. And to the fire controller, it's very difficult to cut power to the fire controller by design, but if that happens, it must fail safe to allow entry and egress. We can attack the communication line from the door contact sensor to make it think that the door is closed when we're actually opening it, or the communication line or the hardware of the request to exit sensor to make it think someone's exiting when that's not the case. We can attack the power/communication line and the hardware of the mag strike so that we can cause it to unlock. We can attack the communication line and the hardware of the reader to make it listen to when a valid card gets swiped, or replay that and do all sorts of other trickery. And we can also attack the hardware and communication line from the accessibility button on the secure side of the door to make it think that someone's trying to exit and cause that door to unlock. If there's a key switch, we can of course attack that, picking the lock, jumping the wire anywhere in the communications lines in between the two, and the fire controller and the communication line to it. We can also attack to cause the security controller to think that there is a fire alarm going on, and that doesn't necessarily involve actually setting off a fire alarm. We can attack the line out. So if we prevent alarms from getting out, then we've effectively defeated this system. If we can cause the door to unlock some other way, which is what Latch Bypass Village is all about, and we can attack the line in, say causing it to think that a new user is authorized, or causing it to think that a certain building hour is open. So we tell it, well, Friday from 3 to 3
I don't know much about alarms, and this is super fascinating.
And then we can freely walk in during that period of time. And the controller itself, of course, has manifest vulnerabilities. There's one more attack vector that we can apply.
That's a great band name, Manifest Vulnerabilities.
System. That's right. We can avoid all of this and just go through the door. So this is a somewhat extreme example of taking a saw to it, which is seen in very advanced burglaries and more often with firefighters' forcible entry. Sometimes if there is a vent louver window, if the screws are on the outside, you can just unscrew that and crawl through. And if there's a window, of course, you can just break the glass. And this does happen. So in this case, we see burglars that are approaching this house, and they happen to know that this door has contact sensors on it, but there's these wide open windows, and so they're going to enter through those instead and leave the door shut, thus tricking the alarm into thinking that no one's entered. So we see they've just broken the pane of the window, and now they're reaming themselves out a hole that they can get through. And so at this point they could easily reach through and grab that handle, but they're not going to do that. So we'll watch as they do that. One thing I'll note is that these wide open visible windows make it very good for a burglar to know what's inside the house. They can see where your valuables are, where your alarm system is, they can see paths of escape if they need to take those. And so it's all around a good situation for them. And now we see them entering through that hole in the door, and the alarm system is none the wiser. So looking at how we can attack those communication lines. As I mentioned, I have a main track talk all about this, so I'll only talk about it on a fairly high level. When the switch that senses if, say, the door is opened or if there's another alarm condition, when that switch is normally closed, so when the system is secure, the circuit is connected. And then if it opens up, that will trigger an alarm. To fix that, or well, to attack that, we can jumper the line.
I do know there's ways to bypass the fingerprint stuff, both in terms of the print itself as well as biometrics such as sweat and like texture. Because literally Mythbusters have done that for cheap.
Normally open is the opposite. So normally open is where when there's a normal situation, the circuit is disconnected. And when there's an alarm, it will connect. Well, how do we defeat that? We just cut the line. And then it always looks like the switch is disconnected. The defenses here is one thing we can do to make it a bit less vulnerable is have what's called end-of-line resistors. So rather than having an open circuit or a short circuit, it switches between two different resistances. And my main track talk talks all about how to defeat that. A much more secure method is to have a
I don't know if he does that in the talk, because this is the first time I'm seeing this talk at the Bypass Village. I saw a bunch of other talks except for this one. That's how busy we all
visible
were.
in fire systems where they need to be inspected, etc. And so you can often see these boxes beside fire equipment to what's called supervise the line, make sure that that communication line has not accidentally, environmentally, or maliciously stopped working properly. The signals themselves can also be attacked using a number of means, taking advantage of signal degradation that is natural along the lines. So communication lines have natural capacitance between them because they're effectively a two-plate capacitor with a long wire set of two
Sweet, I don't know
wires.
about this year, but I've always wanted to go to CCC for like over New Year's and stuff, so one of these days I'll be not broke enough to do that, and I get to see a lot of my German friends.
To learn more about how that works. And of course they have a natural resistance as well. So the capacitance means that it takes a little bit of time to go from a 0 to a 1, and it doesn't happen instantly. And the inductance means that it sort of fluctuates around. So you go up to a 1, but then you've created a magnetic field, which then has to collapse, and it generates an additional current, etc. And so the combination of these two is that when you send a digital signal down a line...
I had a couple of problems with CCC virtual last year, and one of them was their AV screwed up, so there was a couple of talks that were that weren't available, including the Milk Tea Alliance thing. Despite us talking over parts of it and missing a chunk of it, we're the only recording of that talk because CCC's own audio-video team lost the data for that. And it's a minor reason, but that's one of the few complaints I had. The biggest one is their virtual world where I'm like, how do you not have privacy buttons to not immediately bring up audio and video chat with other people? That just boggled my mind. Let's go back to this.
To the point that we can't tell very much better than chance whether we're receiving
and I'll say we'll go to 11:30 if this talk's not done yet, and then we'll take a short
some of the
break
attacks
and
that
do
we
the
can
other
use, we can wiretap and read what's being sent, and that attacks confidentiality. We can attack integrity by introducing packets, and availability.
CIA, Justin Realty, ECIA, Destable Foreign Governments, CIA.
And encrypt it to attack or to defend against confidentiality and integrity attacks. And for availability, send heartbeats down the line to detect if signals stop getting through. When it's on a carrier wave, so that means wireless. Well, we can't put a direct current across empty space, at least not at normal voltages, so we have to put an alternating light wave through it instead, and we modulate that light wave. So we can modulate it in the frequency domain and send signals that way, in the amplitude domain, changing the amplitude, or even phase shifting it based on what we're sending, and that creates 3 different primary protocols that get used there. To attack wireless signals, we can just sniff it to attack confidentiality. It's on the public airwaves, anyone can listen. We can transmit new and overwrite to attack integrity, and availability, of course, we can just jam that line. The defense is, of course, encrypt for confidentiality and integrity, but with integrity we can also locate a jamming attack or a attack aiming to introduce packets, and we can take out whoever's trying to do that once we've located them.
So 5 more minutes if the talk's not done yet. We're going to stop this talk, take a short break, and then I'll show you the locks that nearly killed me. So stay tuned.
Heartbeat so we can detect it.
Great talk, by the way, so far.
Looking at a couple of the attacks available for the physical hardware that exists on access control systems. So when it's a magnetic door contact sensor, mechanically we can just unscrew the magnet and hold it in place and open the door. That's not possible if the magnet is on the secure side of the door and we're trying to get in, which is a good reason why it should be mounted as such. We can also use a surrogate magnet to create a new magnetic field that replaces the old one and allows us to open that door without it being detected. And so for the blue team to defend against this, you want to use in-frame magnets and secure side magnets with balanced magnetic switches. So it has to be a specific, very tight magnetic strength. And so if we introduce a surrogate magnet that's too strong, it will trigger the alarm as well. And I encourage you to check out the game that we have in the Bypass Village for simulating how to do that. To attack all of these, request to exit and locking hardware type systems. So when it's passive infrared, we can send a hot or opaque gas through to simulate a human on the other side. And when it's a handle or a push to exit button, we can manipulate that from the unlocked side by sticking various bypass tools through.
It's actually a tool called the DTT that's really good for most office buildings. I could show that off later at Sparrows.
We want to tune it for short range as not sensitive, but as specific as possible to prevent someone from, say, standing far away and triggering that request to exit, thus either suppressing an alarm or unlocking that door. For attacking maglocks, we can just separate those electromagnets a tiny bit. So if we can get through in building open hours, or if the door is ever opened, just a piece of gaffer tape is enough to reduce that holding force from 2,000 pounds to about 50 pounds. So it feels secure, but if you pull hard enough, that door will open. And of course, we can use other techniques that the Lock Bypass Village is all about, like latch slipping, which is common for badly designed or badly installed mag strike systems that have these large holes, and it lets the dead latch fall into place. And so here's an example where we see a conduit that runs to a mag lock on the other side. You can tell it is because of this bolt pattern. And so we can open up this communication line and power line, cut that power, and there's nothing then holding the mag lock closed, and this door can be freely opened. With something like this, we can pick the lock, obviously, but we can also unscrew the enclosure or get at anywhere up this conduit on that line and cause it to think that that lock has been turned. We'll talk a little bit about the comms protocol, and I encourage you to check out, there's loads of great talks in the RF Village, as well as we're running one on sort of basic Proxmark usage and RFID hacking in a bypass sense. But the comms protocol is what communicates from the reader down to the controller. So vegan is by far the most common, and you've probably heard about this. So we send binary data by either pulling the green wire for 0 down to send a 0, or we pull the white wire down to 0 volts to send a 1.
This is like those Hollywood movies where they defuse the bomb, like, green wire, white wire, which one do I cut? And they cut the red one and it doesn't blow up.
Well, one well-documented attack against this is to listen for that signal being sent down. And so Mark Baseggio and Eric Evenchik came up with this incredible device called a BLE key, and there's a sister device came out called the ESP key. They essentially do the same thing, which is to record data as it gets sent down, and then they can replay that data and cause a or the controller to think that an authorized user is tapping in some later time when it's actually an attacker. And of course, with RFID, you can also use that to create a card yourself and all sorts of other things. So the remediation for something like that is not to send your data down an unsecured, unencrypted line, not to allow it to have replay attacks work, to use a nonce or something to detect that. And so OSDP is one protocol that is not particularly commonly used, but one option. There's a bunch of proprietary ones that try to encrypt it, but it's something that is worth looking into for high security installations. And of course, physically shielding your line as well helps with that.
Okay, I think we're going to call that quits right there for the Lock Bypass Village. Again, you can go to the, I'll put their main website again. You can go to their website, and you can also go to the archive of their current Twitch. Again, it'd be amazing if this happens in a month, but in about 2 months to 4 months, I would say the max is probably about 4 months. The DEFCON main channel itself should have these talks up and running. So if you want to see the rest of that talk, there's the there's the Bypass Village website, and there is the Twitch that we were watching that was causing weird problems with our stream. So what we're going to do next as I go to face cam is that I'm going to go away from keyboard temporarily. And, oh, one last thing. So I'm not going to show the picture of it here, but I will show you. So I think we was listing of, there's a bunch of things where if you deal with like glass sliding doors and stuff, there's different tools that you can use to bypass all of that, right? So I wanted to show what one of these is that Sparrow sells. It's a common type, but it's pretty nifty. And this is known, let's see, the door, the magneto. We're going to get to there. It's somewhere in here, just because my brain is all fried. Here we go. It's known as the DDT. And this is something, Bosnian Bill from Lock Lab has a video about how to do this. And basically what it does is that it bypasses round bar and crash bars. So if you have a glass door, and sometimes you have a glass door and there's a small gap in between, you often see these in like fancy office buildings. And there's a push bar on the other side of the door, that person to push so they can exit, but you can't enter in unless you have like a key or the RFID pass. You wobble the DTT between the two panels of glass, and then you can turn that around, and there's enough of a design there that you can successfully pull a crash bar or a round bar back, depressing it like if you were on the other side, and basically open it from the inside out. And I'm going to put the link to that product in the chat right now. So again, we're going to play some music. We're going to go on break for about like a minute or 3. I'm going to set up the Elmo over here and everything, and I'm going to tell you the story about how a certain event nearly killed me, but I got some really nifty locks out of it. So enjoy the DEFCON soundtrack, and I'll be back in a moment. So give me a bit. I'll be right back. Peace, everybody. This is not the end of the episode. I'm just going to go on away a break. I will be right back, and you'll find out how I nearly died getting locks. Stay tuned. All right. Sorry for the overly bright light, but we should be back now. And here I am. Haha. Gonna turn off this light temporarily for a moment. This is the usual. I mean, it's full screen, but this is the usual position. So we've assumed the position that we usually have for Master of Unlocking. For those who have ever tuned into this first time, first of all, welcome back. And real quick recap: I'm Side Pocket. I'm one of the two co-founders of DEFCON. Sorry, DCG 201, formerly known as DEFCON 201 or DC 201, along with co-founder G.I. Jack, who's in the other room doing important hacker stuff. I am a tool member of the open organization of Lockpickers. My specialty is lockpicking. Our group meets third Friday every month. Our next meeting, hopefully, which will be a hybrid one, so we'll see part of you in person, some of you digitally, on August 20th. And as I said before, you can go to our website at defcon21.org. Follow us on social media, such as our Twitter at defcon21nj, or just defcon21 on Instagram, GitHub, the host sucks, .social, Mastodon, and all of that. Posted links earlier. I might do it again later. Let's get into this. So, we're going to end this entire stream because we just looked through all of the lock stuff at Hacker Summer Camp that was available. A lot of stuff was all virtual this year because we're all trying to be responsible out here in the lockpicking world because we have very hands-on hobby. And it's extremely difficult to do a hands-on hobby when there's the plague going around and a new variant of the plague that's trying to murder everybody. So we checked out some of the other stuff at Hacker Summer Camp, and then we went to DEF CON itself, and we looked at the lockpicking, talk from the lockpicking village itself on safecracking, and then we tried to do DIY tools, but unfortunately that didn't happen, so instead we looked at alarm bypasses for a bit at the Bypass Village, which were the two main lockpicking stuff at DEF CON 26 this year that literally just happened, ended a couple hours ago. I have no idea if they're still doing the closing ceremonies or not, and by the way, just to let everyone know, I'm going to actually try to bring up our stream on the TV because I'm basically going to have a hard time seeing any of your chats out there, or if we get any follows or anything. So I am going to use the Nintendo Switch and try to bring up our stream on the bigger TV that's literally right in front of me. But if you like what you see here, and this is probably going to be half an hour at max, to be honest. You can follow, and share us on Twitch DLive or YouTube, especially on DLive, where we're 2 followers away from reaching Cryptocurrency Superstar, which is a status on DLive where we can do a lot more with the account. We really want to do a lot more with the account. And the other thing about this as well is that if you do follow us, you'll get alerts for when our meetings are coming up. And we'll be able to, and I'm actually going to raise the sensitivity of the microphone here because I forgot how long away I am from the microphone, but I get notifications for those when you follow us and cheer you on. I also like talking to people with chat, so if you have any questions or cool comments out there, I can read the chat now in this section of the video because it's on the big screen TV, so as long as you're not being a fuck nugget, if you want to make a cool comment or you have a suggestion, or you have a question about what we're doing or what we're about, whether it's lockpicking, hacking, or my crazy hair, please let me know in chat. I love talking to you all in chat, as I've been doing. Otherwise, as I always say, keep learning. So let me hydrate, step off cam a bit, and give me hydrate. Let me tell you this story because it kind of relates to this shirt right here. This is from a video game called Mad World. I got a long time ago, back when the Wii was the dominant console. Now I have the Switch. Not a D-Link Switch or a Cisco Switch, just a Nintendo Switch. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, and there's a reason I'm also bringing up my phone too, is that this sort of caution with a guy getting murdered with another caution sign kind of sums up what kind of happened to me the last Master of Unlocking. So for all of you who don't remember, the last Master of Unlocking, I was super late to the stream. We were supposed to stream at 8, and we either streamed at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 10:30 Eastern. I almost said Eastern European Time. There we go. That's how fried my brain is. 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. So why did we have to delay this for 2 hours? What happened? And my other issue with this is I'm going to tell you what happened in a way that hopefully will not dox ourselves, because I've gone over this in my head multiple times. But I'll tell you because I've been hyping this up of what happened and how I ended up with these locks that we're going to take a quick look at here. So, let me bring up the video here, because unfortunately I wasn't able to rip it before the stream because we were doing all the DEFCON shenanigans. Like I said before, we were about to stream. We were about to live stream. I was literally for once on time. I had all the lockpick stuff on the table that you're going to see in a moment on the Elmo. And I had the locks that we were going to deal with that day, which we eventually did, which was this giant master lock 15, which I can now easily break open, and sometimes if it behaves on camera, I can pick open. And we also looked at this shockingly so far, and I haven't gone back to it since, but shockingly resistant, which makes me happy, master lock that's designed to go through a handgun or rifle or a shotgun through some of the moving parts to prevent. So if you have this locked on there, you can't actually fire or load the weapon. And I was all ready. We were good to go. It was like 3 minutes about to stream. And then I heard a beeping sound. Now, we live in Jersey City. Jersey City is known for just obnoxious sounds. If you've ever seen our live stream, you will be very, very familiar with, like, me or G.I. Jack or Cell or whoever, and Commander streaming. I guess these. Yep, just get all that delta out. And, like, how do I put this? And what would happen is that we would be talking, and all of a sudden you'll just hear sirens or two people yelling F-bombs at each other, or like a giant explosion, which is supposed to actually happen today. I forgot to retweet this, that they're demoing buildings in Bayonne, and the buildings are so huge that apparently, maybe I slept through this, you could apparently hear them all the way in the Heights, which is like, put it this way, that's like if they were demolishing buildings in Bedford in Brooklyn, and you could hear the explosions all the way in Inwood on the tippy top of Manhattan. That's how loud this shit was. And they had to issue that as a warning on Twitter. So very much loud sound. So the idea of hearing random beeping, I've heard beeping sounds from our neighbors. I've heard cell phones go off from our neighbors over there, people outside, things like that. But I decided, you know what? Something kind of feels off, and my hacker brain's kind of curious. So I'm like, if there's a beeping sound, I'm going to check it. And I'll put it this way as I rehydrate. I am super glad that I checked it. Because as I started to walk downstairs in our building, a bunch of things were happening. I couldn't think straight. My nostrils were on fire. I was dazed, confused. I felt like my limbs were going numb, like my fingers and then the palms of my hands, and like the Achilles heel part of my legs were weirding out. It was almost like I was on acid, but I was completely self-aware, okay? I was like on a high-powered, trippy drug, but I was not on drugs. And I checked to see what it was, and someone just guessed it in chat. Our building had a giant carbon monoxide poisoning. That was the alarm that went off. It was literally like screaming like in a digitized voice, code red, and beeping like crazy. So I immediately, I think I grabbed two things and I ran out. Sadly enough, because I had all the lockpicks out from the Master of Unlocking, I didn't have my lockpick set, which would have been handy at a later point that happened where the fire department needed to get into the basement somewhere. I did help them because the problem was that it was actually a reinforced master lock, way more reinforced than this. It was more closer to like it wasn't one of these, but it had similar like bar and it wasn't. I don't think it was a bar and carbide. I think it was stainless steel, but it had this hexagonal shaped shackle. And I told them, because they were trying to pry it open, I'm like, you're never gonna pry it open. Get your diamond cutter saw, choose a spot on the side, and do that 2 or 3 times, like really press it in, and that will break the lock, and that did. Otherwise, I would have easily raked or picked that open because it's 4 pins with shitty bitting. But I literally had all my locks stuck where we were in the apartment building. This is exactly why. This actually vindicated for me that one of the future things I want to get, and it's something I also want to show off on the Master of Unlocking at some point. I just want to do a test to see how the phone. Okay, I do have to increase the brightness on the phone. I thought maybe it'd be too bright. Is that better? Yeah, I think that's a good, like that. Yeah, that's good. kind of like doxing myself here, but whatever. Major carbon monoxide poisoning, alarm going off. I was stuck outside. I contacted our roommates, including Jack. He came back to where we were immediately. It was so bad. It was like there was like 5 police vehicles, 3 or 4 fire trucks, and PSNEG was there. And what I essentially found out is that there was another building that was having another problem where essentially the wires were going crazy in the sewers. They got a violation. When they were finding that, they realized that our building wasn't ventilated properly. So all the bull crap that was going on in the building next to us, because all the buildings are somewhat interconnected, seeped in. And normally the vents would be able to dispel that from like the basement coming in from the sewer system, but it didn't. So it built up in this building and it started spreading other buildings. And put it this way, when I gave my keys over to the fire department, when they walked in, all of their handheld alarms went max percent code red, and they had to run out, put on respiratory equipment, and go in. I've been checked out. I'm fine now, but I definitely for like that entire night for like 6 hours was going through carbon monoxide poisoning. So if you notice on the air, I mean, sometimes I forgetful and I trip up my words, especially when my mouth dries out or my sinuses go nuts. But you probably noticed on the last stream, again, took me 8 million years to rake this open. We only raked it open once. I never picked it open. And that my hands were somewhat shaking and I kept repeating myself. That's some of the side effects that a human body goes through with carbon monoxide poisoning. And so I'm really happy that despite the stream getting horribly delayed, yeah, someone said, as a thank you to them, I was glad that I checked. I was glad that I went through that. And as Ms. Jackalow chastised, I should have tagged her in this, as she chastised me later, she was shocked that after everything was cleared out and we could like close the window and stuff, I went ahead at 10:30 and did the stream anyhow, even though I basically was like, my hands were so much shaking, people thought I had Parkinson's disease. That's how much dedicated I am, not only to Locksport, but to you guys. Now, obviously, my health was, if I couldn't stand up straight like here, or like I was having like full-on dementia, I would go to bed, or I would immediately call an ambulance or something. But since my hands were still able to work somewhat, and I was able to be somewhat coherent, I still did the show anyhow. In fact, to show you how much I got better at this, we're going to actually, I don't know if we're going to pick this, but we're going to rake the Master Lock number 15 right now. So I'm going to put in this really thick bottom of the keyway tension tool. I'm lifting it up a bit. I could put it, it's easier to do it when it's flat, but because of these rivets, I am going to lift this slightly up a bit. And I'm going to put on some like mid to heavy tension on this. And I found out the triple peak gets stuck. Instead, I'm going to use this triple peak variant from Sparrows that's called the Worm. And we're going to do this, and it should click open because it's really heavy to turn this. So, and let's pray this isn't camera shy. Reset again. Let's try this again. Here we go. So I got all the pins, and we're going to turn, and you're going to get the pop. It's going to be really heavy. And the Master Lock 15 is open. That's how fast it is to rake it. I've single pin picked this. We can spend like 30 seconds because I really just want to get into this episode. To single pin pick this. I'm actually going to attempt to use the, which is what I'm going to use for these locks, the Monkey Paw, which is a really great notch pick that one of my favorite lockpicking YouTube channels, aka Lock Noob. Even though he's like in the top 3 in my opinion, and most people's opinions, I think his channel is severely underrated. To me, he should have this, not to diss Lockpicking Lawyer, but he should have the same amount of following and views, if not more, than Lockpicking Lawyer, just because of how well his videos are made, especially for new people starting out. I endlessly use his videos in my own teaching. But I'm going to spend next couple seconds. I might not get it open, but I will attempt to single pin pick this. So I'm going to say in chat, can you ask the Toolman if can restream his video, the 4 English people? Oh, the English. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit slower. So the last episode of this show, right? I was about to go live on time. Like, I wasn't late. I was on time. But I heard a beeping sound. And I know I talk really fast. If I ever talk too fast or too loud, let me know in chat. I can easily adjust what I do. And I went to check out the beeping, and long story short, we had the fire department where we were. Turned out there was a carbon monoxide leak. If you don't know what carbon monoxide is, that's an unfamiliar English term. Very dangerous chemical that affects the neurology of your body. My hands were shaking. I had a hard time remembering and staying conscious, things like that. We got that resolved, and I did the episode anyhow. That's the reason why I couldn't really rake this open decently, because my nervous system was shot. I did the episode anyhow because I could at least stand up and talk, but I wanted to cathartically rake this on air, and I'm going to try to single pin pick this because I just want to show that this is how it would have normally happened on the episode, and we would have immediately gone to the gun lock. But because of I was essentially like had weapons of mass destruction hit me, that's why I couldn't do anything. So I'm going to try to single pin pick this with the monkey paw, which is a great notched pick from Lock Noob here. And the keyword is I'm going to try. This is a 5-pinner lock, so it's not exactly a ginormous master lock number 3, but if you add an extra pin, I don't know if there's security pins in here. There might be a really shitty spool, but I do know that the bidding, because you can actually see it, and this is the packaging I picked it out of. Like, I didn't use the key. I just picked it right out of the packaging. The bidding is extremely flat, even for 5 pins. So I should normally pick this open, but for some reason, probably because I'm still getting used to tensions on this, it is, yes, some of these, and these are common to rake open. And they're also, another thing about locks, not only do I get like good beginner to intermediate advanced locks, but just because of where I am, I tend to get locks on purpose that are really common that I see around Jersey City in New Jersey. So like I often see, even though I highly recommend these no matter what, I often see Master Lock 140s, Master Lock number 3s, which are actually slightly more uncommon. I occasionally see the occasional warded Master Lock at a time. I see these Master Lock 15s. I see this incredibly crappy lock securing things that it should never secure, that you can easily bypass. There's 2 ways to bypass. You can decode this, you can bypass it, and you can pick it open and rake it. It's just really bad. So I just tend to get a lot of locks that not only are just good for learning lock picking at different skill levels, but stuff that you see around Jersey City, and especially since we normally, if we didn't have the plague, I would be publicly demoing a lot in Jersey City. What that means, I'm going to put the monkey paw away, and we're going to try the offset hybrid pick, which I usually sometimes have better success on this thing. And again, might be camera shy tonight. Sometimes locks are like that. You can be lockpicking lawyer even has that. He's talked about this before, where he picks a lock, and even though he's picked it a million times, sometimes it's just a bad day or whatever, and it just doesn't pick open on there, and he has to choose a different day. But that way, when I do demos in public around Jersey City, like I've had a lot of people like, oh my god, I use this lock, or like my boss uses this lock at our job, and now they know not to, like, oh, here we go, open, just picked it with the D4S hybrid. That was like what, like 8 seconds. Sorry, the offset hybrid picked from Sparrows for my kit with its nice, comfortable thermal handles. So that's one of the, so not only do I just go for like good locks to pick, but I go for locks that at least locally around here people are familiar with. Now that doesn't mean, again, I'm on my way of getting a dimple lock, see-through lock with a pick set. I was originally going to get the black flags from Sparrows, but apparently they're remaking them, and I don't know when the hell they're going to put them back on the market again. So I might end up going to, I think, like Southord or something. I don't want to get any of the Chinese ones. There's actually really good tools you can get from China for lockpicking, but there's also really crappy ones. And if you know what to shop for, you know what to avoid. So I know I'm not going to get any dimple locks picked from China. So, and those are very uncommon unless they're multi-T locks around America. I usually find dimple locks more common in Europe, particularly Western Europe, and sometimes in East Asia. So, again, it's not that I'm, and again, I also have this freaking, where to go. I got an orange on purpose to confuse people. I got this Abus 7240 to bypass, although there's a manufacturing error on it, so I'm probably going to get a second one. And like these are super uncommon. You never see these in America, or just even around here in general. You do see Avis locks once in a blue moon, but that's about it. So I'm not above getting locks that people are unfamiliar with. It's just more at like the base level, especially in the introductory level. I think it's much more palpable in our area to get locks that, oh, here we go again, that more people are familiar with around here locally. And Master Lock 15s I'll put it this way, almost every major business in Jersey City uses Master Lock 15 to secure the outside shutters for their windows, the windows themselves, various countertops and stuff. And as Sky Pirate Actual, who we interviewed at our last DCG 201 meeting, said, he often encountered these. He did not know that Master Lock rated these at security level 10. Not just for their physical durability, but they even say right here, max pick resistance. I raked it open in like half a second, and I've already picked this open twice on air in barely like under 5 minutes. So like he saw those, but he never saw the packaging, so he didn't realize that this is one of Master Lock's highest rated locks, and that's why this rating system is horseshit, which is what I was trying to explain in the last episode. HPC makes awesome tools from China. In fact, I can tell you right now before we go into the what happened here, because there's a little bit more of this story about why I almost died from carbon monoxide, is that HPC actually makes something that I really want to buy 2 of the same set, but I'm probably just going to start with 1 just because it's like $80 and that's kind of expensive on my end, even though there's a lot more expensive things a lot. HPC particularly sells decent lockpicks that are all color-coded. So it's like all the handles that are red are hooks. All the ones that are blue are half diamonds. All the ones that are green are S-rakes, all of them. That is just not only that's a great way for me to get a crap ton of picks for people to use really cheap, but for people who aren't colorblind, and I might also just put like tape on certain spots so people who are colorblind can tell. I can tell people like when they're just like, oh, it's like, get one of the hooks, grab the red one, and they know to just grab red, and that any hook will work. And then they can progress to like these more like black and gray guys. So that, it's kind of like the same way you learn certain things where everything's color coded, and then you learn what the actual mechanics are, and then you don't need the color coding anymore. Not USA. So that's something I want to get. Anyhow, so why am I telling you why I almost died from carbon monoxide story besides the fact that episode got delayed, and that was the reason. I didn't want to say it on air because I didn't know if there was going to be lawyers or like the building would have exploded and got worse. So but I'm able to, full disclosure, basically explain that now in the least doxious way possible. Well, as you've seen, as I did Italian hand moves the entire time, as you've seen with the preview image, if you're on YouTube in particular, or if you saw our tweet or Instagram about this, they had to get downstairs. They had to both get downstairs from the outside using the basement thing, which was the lock cutting. They also had to try to get through. Cool. I don't know if you're on Instagram or Twitter, but anytime you can DM us a picture of that. I also have a personal account on Instagram. I can publicly say it's Side Pocket Reborn. It's all one word on Instagram. So if you want to see a lot of weird stuff that mostly has nothing to do with hacking, you can go see that. And I'm also on mastodon.social under Side Pocket. So if you want to message me directly, but you can also just message us. Me, Jack, and everyone, we see everything on the Twitter account and the Instagram account and all the other social media. So if you want to ping us or just email us at info@defcon21.org and be like, hey, I'm a huge fan of you guys. Here's my pick set on here. Or here's the video where I showed it up. We'd love to check it out. We'll promote it. It'll be great. But so not only did they have to go through the service area from the outside, even though I gave them the keys to access the building, they needed to get to the basement. Now, here's a funny thing. This is one of the things that, full disclosure, spoilers, I hate my landlady, or landlord, whatever the hell they are, for multiple different reasons. And this is one of them. So they did, a while back, install a firebox. Now, if you're unfamiliar, and I wish I had a picture of this to show you, that is a small, secure box where the fire department has the key, and you stick it. It's mainly for businesses, but you stick it outside of your business door, and we have a business on the ground floor. We don't own it, someone else. And basically, when the fire department comes in, it's kind of like those like decoder master lock things, except technically more secure because I think it's like has a bunch of other stuff in it. Probably has like a bunch of spools and serrated pins similar to a lotto lock or a lockout tagout lock or a knock box. That's another term for it. Where the fire department could come in, open that, and it has all the skeleton keys and master keys for the entire building. Every single key that you need for the fire department as requested. The problem is that they thought it looked ugly on the outside, so they put it in a slightly different location where I even forgot the box was there. Like, I was looking for this, the fire department was looking for this, no one could find this thing. And by the way, I was like the head honcho running around as like the only semi-civilian running around screaming, the fire department mainly talked to me, etc. So I was like the dude on the spot. Yeah. And I even told them, I was like, look, it needs to, I don't care if it looks bad, it has to face out so that we can see the red tag on it and be like, that's the mask, that's where all the keys are. And they were just like, this, and they did that, and now I can't go into details, but they're not happy right now. They shouldn't be because they screwed up. And that's not the only screw up, but that's the one I'm going to say that's relevant to this. And so as you can see with the preview image, I told them, I was like, I don't have the key for it, and all my tools are upstairs, so I don't care what you have to do in the basement, do that. And they just knocked that door down. And so as you've seen the preview image, whether it's on our social media or stuff, that's the door we're sitting out there. And I would have downloaded this video and put this in OBS, but I'll show it right through my phone. We uploaded this as the door was out there, everything was fine. I went back out there with a screwdriver, and I recorded this hilarious video. That this will become a future Master of Unlocking video, don't ask. That's me taking the locks out of the busted door left outside on the curb. And that's what we're going to spend the next couple of minutes as we go past midnight. Worst, we're going to stream to 12:30. It's probably only going to take 10 minutes to go through this. But that's the locks we're going to look at today, is the old basement door locks that, on one hand, I almost died from carbon monoxide poisoning. On the other hand, now I have locks to show you on Master of Unlocking. I can't think of a better way to end DEFCON 29 with all the crazy Locksport stuff that happened during Hacker Summer Camp than this. I just want to read the chat real quick. It's like painting smoke, heat detectors, to stay away from the fire safety systems. Yes, I do the same thing too. In fact, another cool thing as I switch over to the other camera, actually we're going to go to the chat stream here and do this. Let's get rid of the browser and bring up, there we go, turn on the light. So I'm sorry for the brightness here. I might have to adjust the camera slightly so it's like out of the way a bit. There we go. I think that's better. Now it's just a sad blob in the corner instead of just one giant blob. And what was I going to say here? So one last hydrate for tonight. This should only honestly take 10 minutes. I recently found out, I'm trying to contact, because I don't know which building owns this chain link fence, but somewhere near us in Jersey City, because I didn't think this exists, there's actually a love lock wall. I might do an episode entirely on this. It's really more common in Europe, but you do see this in the United States where when people graduate high school, in particular around here, sometimes it's college, what they do is they take the lock that they used to have on their locker and they'll lock it on the gate. Another variant where we get the term love lock come from, they actually also sell locks that are specifically designed for this, especially since you're not supposed to open these, is you get a lock, like a lock that's like super wide like this but really big, and you write, it's like, you know, the old thing of like carving your names on the tree of like Jessica and Brian forever and like a giant heart, and then you end up having a messy divorce 5 times. Same thing, but with locks. So you have a wide lock, not something heavy as this, but like this type of lock, but as wide as this. They do sell variant. I think that's like the master lock, like 165 or something like that. And you take a permanent marker and you write your names and draw a heart, or you write like R.I.P. whoever died, and you lock that on the chain link fence. And the problem is that eventually, if you put enough locks, because I don't know if you can hear this, but especially a lock this big, they get pretty heavy. And even tiny locks like this, it's like what they say about rain. Like, a little rain never hurt anyone, but a lot of rain can kill you. Hence tsunamis and hurricanes. You put enough of these on a fence, it will start warping the fence. And if you put them on a bridge, it'll eventually break the bridge. So law enforcement usually has to come in and clip all these locks off. Again, this will definitely be a future episode. I'm just going to do a crackdown. And people, part of Tool and other lock pickers, have instead decided that they can pick the locks off the fence or bypass them or decode them, and that way they can preserve the lock, give them back to their owners, or just collect them, completely preserved, without ruining the whole log block concept of just like breaking these off the gate. So we actually do have one in town. I'm trying to figure out who owns that fence so I can talk with them about stuff, see if the city wants these removed, and if they do so, I would be absolutely honored. We do a whole pre-recorded Master of Unlocking about this, removing those locks off of them. Death by 1,000 locks. That literally almost happened in Paris one year. I'm not even kidding. But let's focus on these. So, as you saw in the video in the preview image, these were originally the locks in the basement door. Now, I'm not going to confirm or deny if I've ever dealt with these locks before, but I knew of these types. So this is kind of the super faller stuff, obviously, and some of the screws are still in here that I took off the door. This is part of the upper deadbolt. That would be that action. This, I believe, was the actual mechanism that was in the deadbolt that would super looped up, so I'm definitely going to wash my fingers later. That would open and close. Then at the bottom part of the lock, you had the inside where you could lock and unlock on the inside of the door, and the actual bolt itself, which is a two-parter here, which makes it a little odd to gym. If I had the gym, I'd actually show you how that works, and that goes in the middle of the door. I kept these, and I kept all the screws and stuff because I'm that thorough, but this is where this is irrelevant. What we are looking at is the actual pin tumbler locks themselves. I also want to note, if you notice that my hands are getting greasy and stuff, as I said on one episode, and you saw me kind of violate that a little bit. Actually, this was the non-greasy side, so this, yeah, that works. That's the non-greasy side. It's mostly it's all on my fingertips. Even if you're doing lockpicking, especially I will say, if you're doing anything with Master Lock or 3 above, you're getting metal filings on and in your fingers. You're getting chemicals. You're getting germs and handprints from other people. It's very similar to soldering. I don't want you to be picking a lock and then stop, reach over, eat something, touch your eyeballs, pick your teeth, itch your crotch, no matter what gender you are, and what type of gender you are, and then continue lockpicking. You have now put some metal poisoning on you, grease and stuff in your eyeball, germs and things. So like, go. If you have to do anything else besides lockpicking, stop, go to the bathroom, wash your hands with actual soap and water, rinse them, dry them off, come back. Do that every single time. You can prevent so much bad stuff from happening that way. And no one's going to, if we go back to in-person tool meetings in the near future, or you go to our meetings at DG 201, like on August 20th, if we still have the hybrid meeting, and I'm going to slow down a bit because I realize I'm talking more fast. No one's going to yell at you for constantly going into the bathroom. I'd rather your hands be clean and full of grease than that. I will also give you a tip, especially with greasy stuff. What you want to do, get yourself, I'll actually go to our bathroom and get it. I'm going to be using this after the stream. I do this every after stream. This is something you don't see. And I do this. This is something you folks don't see. I do this when we end the live stream. So you see this thing? The logo's rubbed off of it. This is a bar version. They also sell this in liquid form. This is lava soap. This is something that I know this because my father is a car mechanic. This is a type of soap. It has a bunch of silica and abrasions in it and other chemicals. It is designed to cut through automotive grease. This is perfect because it's similar. They're like cousins. The type of lube and grease and stuff that you'll find in locks, especially if you're dealing with automotive locks in general. But just locks and stuff in metal. This will get all that metal stuff off your hands. This will get all of the grease and everything off. You wash your hands with lava soap. That's what's called lava. It's like the floor is lava. You wash with this first. Then you wash with an antibacterial soap, hopefully with some moisturizer in it, and dry your hands off, and you'll go back to whatever you're doing. That's my thorough recommendation on. That is my thorough recommendation on how to properly wash your hands between locks. In fact, I'll put it this way: both at New Jersey Tool and New York Tool. If I find out, especially New York Tool, that they don't have lava soap, I will get them a pump lava soap for their bathroom, which they should have anyhow because they do soldering and a bunch of other stuff. But I'll ask first. But let's get to these locks here, okay? So the first one is the bolt. That was this guy in here. This is you can actually have tail fits in here and everything. And this is a Defiant door lock. This is actually the casing for it. We can just pop this out. This is the same way how, like, if you just take a lock and one of these, like, tumblers, this is what the cylinder looks like on the inside of the lock body. When you see door locks, this is all superfluous crap. This is actually what the lock looks like. You can actually see the pins. So what's nuts about this, now that I've removed it, I don't even have to, and I am going to regardless, I don't even have to put a, let me get a better thing here. I don't even have to put a flat edge tool in here and pull back and count how many pins they are, because we can literally see the drill holes. There are 5 pins in here. Now, I have not taken this apart, and we're not going to take this apart on air. We're interested in picking and raking this stuff. So I know there's 5 pins. I don't know if there's any actual security in them, like spool pins or serrated pins. I just know there's 5 pins. We're going to try to pick this first, and because I've dealt with Defiance, I have an odd feeling that this is going to be really, it's probably going to bite me in the butt, but I have a feeling this is going to be really easy, and I'm going to focus here. This is going to be probably shockingly easy to rake. I don't know about picking it open, but raking open is definitely what we're going to do. That's actually not the Nightmare guy. The Nightmare one that I doubt we're going to be able to do on air is this goddamn thing. Probably seen this a lot on lockpicking lawyer videos. This is a quick set. So you're thinking, oh, this is great. That means this lock is, I mean, these are, I believe, these might be quick sets. No, they're not. I have a different quick set key. Yeah, these are like, you know, these are shit locks. Like, quick set is known for being the master lock of door locks. Like, these are just incredibly shitty. Not quite. Yeah, I know, I sound like some, like, TV, I've seen on TV advertisement. So, you see that little notch on the left side of it? Again, we're not going to take this apart. Well, that will be a future episode when we do more locksmithing. But that notch, in my experience level, I hate these. This is known as a quick set, smart reset system. So if you can go and find Lockpicking Lawyer's video about this. If I had a bit more time, I would brought up images, but put it this way. So if we go to the clear lock, oh, tried to run away from me there. Go to the clear lock, you'll notice how like that you have these full-on can key pins, and then down in here you have you have key pins, the little bullets at the bottom, and then up here you have the little soda cans that are driver pins and these springs. That is not what's in this rekeying system, because basically, and here's a kind of a real smart key. Sorry, the smart key system. Rekey is kind of the general term, but the quick set itself is called the smart key system. God, my nose is itchy. And Delta, and I hope not. But Jesus, trying to use the non-grease side of my fingers, try to follow my own advice. A rule of thumb for me with locks, right? Funny enough, every time they try to add security to a lock, never works. Oh, we're gonna add all this digital firewalls and stuff to the padlock. You open it with just waving a AA battery around it or something. Every time they make a lock easy for the consumer to use, that's when it becomes ass hard. And this is one of those. So instead of having to pull the cylinder out, take all the pins out, repin it, test the key, put it back in, or have the person have to constantly buy new locks when they get a new key, this smart key system is they put a little tool, and I have a copy of it. I'm not going to use it now. But they take this and they take what they do is they put the original key in, and they take this, and they press this tab in here, and then they pull that key out, and that basically puts it in neutral mode. And they put the other key in here, because it's like a clockwise motion, and they put the other key in here, move the tab again, and then now that old key does not work, and this inside has now binded itself and rekeyed itself to the new key, so it has a completely different shear line clear. And if you were able to take this apart, what you'll find out is that it has proper key pins in here. We can pull them back and count them. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it on air. Yeah, you won't be able to hear it. But it has 5 pins in there. But there's no real driver pins. They're like half driver pins. There's like these, instead of soda cans, it's these like tiny, tiny levers. And they work with a sidebar system, and that's what we program these. And so basically, they're very hard to feel. And even Lockpicking Lawyer has said, these are annoying. Especially if you're intermediate going into advanced. This is annoying as crap, these smart key quickset systems. So normally, quickset, they're really shitty. But because of this system to make it easier for consumers, most lockpickers hate these locks even if they've opened them before. It's kind of similar how, like, Master Lock's a really shitty lock company. For most of them, not shitty lock company, I should take that back. They make a lot of shittily designed and keyed locks. So you think, oh, this is a Master Lock, I can pick it open. It's like how I picked open the Master Lock number 3s or the Master Lock 15s. This is actually, they bought American Lock, and it's chock full of security pins and turbo bitting and paracentric keyways, and it's like really set in, so you have to have like super long tools. So even though this is Master Lock on it, they basically rebranded a really solid American Lock. So even though this is Master Lock, so you think, this is going to be easy, it's not. So it's the same thing with, this is like the padlock version of this doorknob, where it seems simple because it's quick set, but because of the system they use to make it easier, it's annoying. So let's go back to the Defiant, right? So let's try to single pin pick this, which should be a lot easier because I'm not using this on a door. I have picked doors open before. And again, I don't know if there's any security pins in here, but let's try this out. If not, we're going to go and rake this because I have an odd feeling we're going to rake this really fast. So normally as you come over, you'll hear this lock of noise, lock pickers, but locksmiths seem to say they get a lot of calls on smart key locks because they're shoddily made. Yeah, they do wear out over time, and there's also a bunch of other problems with them. And again, locksmiths are kind of like the infosec people of the locksporters. So just because locksporters think one way, that doesn't mean lockpickers think another. I mean, hell, we even went over another episode where a lot of locksmiths, even if they have lockpicking tools, they only literally have, because that's all they need, is a hook, a snake rake, and a bomb the keyway tension tool. They don't have all this other crazy stuff because it's more for locksporting. So two different worlds were just adjacent to each other. So normally, let's see. Homeowners seem to think I'll buy this to save money and rekeying, but it's because it's so cheaply made, they don't save money at all when it fails. Actually, miraculously, it's not even homeowners, it's landlords are like that. That's probably why we had this in our building. So I'm going to try light tension first and see how far I might get or not far. So some of them seem to be sticking. And what's neat is that you can kind of do this I could tension it clockwise or counterclockwise because there's no bolt now. So we might actually try both ways. So I'm going to do super light tension to start. I think that might work the best. I'm also going to try top the keyway. I'm using the offset hybrid here, or deforced diamond as sometimes called. I'm actually going up. Okay, let's go back to super lightweight tension. I also might switch over and do one of my knurled top of the keyway. Top of the keyway tension, because it's amazing how sometimes when you change the tension point, how much that actually changes. Or sometimes I've had things where I've initially had a hard time trying to, and I just broke my rule there, trying to open a lock initially with bomb the keyway, and eventually I learned. Then I use top of the keyway tension, and it like opens immediately. So sometimes that actually happens. I'm actually now going to switch over because I'm going to see I'm going to feel for the notch with the monkey paw and bomb the keyway tension way. I'm going to do super light tension, which seems to be working. I can also try heavy tension later. And I think I'm feeling, because I'm feeling some counter rotation. I think I just pushed it there. There was, I believe, a spool pin in the back. So that's fascinating. You know, it's funny because even though I'm going to keep the monkey paw because of how low profile it is, plus this beautiful art that's on it, what I'm probably eventually going to do, also because there's an episode that I want to do particularly with this. If you want the monkey paw, but you want it like in the normal Sparrow's lockpick style, that's like longer handles, that's not as chunk. They now sell that now. Lockpick made an entire video about that, so that's pretty neat. So let's try tensioning it the other way and see, because, you know, it might be different fitting order. Also, for some reason, I feel like sometimes I tension better with my thumb than I do with my index fingers sometimes. It's kind of weird like that. U.S. patent number 6444074. So for all you patent hunters out there, as I violate my rule one last time, I will wash my face after this stuff. You can go hunt for patents that way. So I'm going to do super light tension. I'm just going to do the tip of my thumb right here. So what I'm going to do, and again, I'm just doing this really fast because I'm really hungry and I was honestly not expecting a stream past midnight. I'm going to take my favorite top of the keyway tension tool, and it's gnarled, which means I've not had this slip out of my hand. So we're going to try it like this. See if that might give us an advantage, a different binding order, even though we have to worry about that first pin. And often you'll see a lot of more experienced, intermediate to advanced lockpickers prefer It's not always like I still use bomb the keyway tension and stuff like that. A lot of experienced people use it. Really depends on what works, but a lot of experienced pickers eventually get really used to top of the keyway tension, especially for picking higher security or high security locks in general. So it seems that I'm actually getting some leeway on this. So I'm going to do even more light tension than normal. That might be able to crack this. If not, we'll do bomb the keyway again, and I'll try this with the Medusa. And who knows, I might even use Kilamaru's. Actually, what I'm going to do here is there's a little bit of a wobble at the top. So I'm actually going to find, I think I might have a thicker gnarled one. That thicker? No, that's even thinner. Okay, I thought I had another one. Ah, here it is. I think this is the thicker one. Nope. Okay. So I'm actually going to use the full pry bar here. So this is not gnarled, so this might slip out of my hand. This one definitely fully fits in here. We're going to see that might work. There's that spool in the back. I'm not touching it too much. I think I was touching it a little bit too much. Yeah, the problem with especially Doorlocks is that that's when you really have to like focus on like doing proper tension and things. And again, with me touching my nose, and I'm trying to only do the outside of it, like this is a do as I say, not say as I do moment. I am going to afterwards wash my face and really regret doing this on camera, being kind of a bad teacher there, so I apologize in advance. I'm now going to tension this the other way with super light tension and see if I get any progress here. Okay. Seems like it's not making much of a difference. Yeah, I'm kind of like half rushing through this just due to time. I know this is probably the part I want to see. I'm going to try Kilamaru's awesome pick here. See if I get something different. Because I think with this I need honestly a longer pick. So who knows? I actually might open it with this because, like, not only do I just keep this because of how beautiful this is, but like this is kind of like my next to the monkey paw. To be honest, this is kind of like my premier single pin lock pick here. So that's kind of neat. All right, let's try bomb the keyway with the with Kilamaru's. I'm gonna hold it actually like this. See what I can do with it. It's a really sturdy design. I'm feeling really good feedback. And the great part is because the pins are exposed too, I actually kind of know what the positions of the pins are. I can kind of feel for it, but I can also just look at it as well, which I think is hilarious. All the way in the back. All right. The last thing we're going to try is the Medusa. I'm going to rake this. Am I open just by raking it? I'm going to rake this as a false set, and I'm going to see if there's one or two pin stranglers here. That's what you use for the Medusa. It's a hybrid pick. So as you can see, there's like a single pick, like kind of a hook on one side, and there's kind of a double peak. And what you do is you rake on the double peak, and that like puts most of the pins in place. And then what you do is you flip it over, and then you lose the remaining pins. And let's see if this is even wide enough. Okay, it seems to be wide enough, so let's do some light tension and put this in potentially a false set. Okay, now let's go in and see if there's any stragglers in here, which there might be. That one's loose. That one wasn't. That was a stiff one. Seems like we're kind of getting mostly better results, although I think I need to do even lighter tension, so I'll put this in a false set. Again, I'm also getting hungry, so like, we might not be able to open either of these. I know I'm not going to get this guy open, but we might not be able to open these at all tonight. Just because, again, I was not expecting to stream to nearly, what time is it? It is nearly, it's like almost 12:30. It's nearly 1 a.m. So I'm probably going to wrap this up in the next 5-10 minutes. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to apply some tension. I'm going to be really evil. I'm going to use the worm instead of the triple peak. First, and we're going to see if we can rate this Defiant open. We're going to see how Defiant it is with a hungry hacker at the hungry lockpicker at the realm here. Yep, and we wrecked it open. See, that's how Defiant it was. What was that, like 8 to 10 seconds? Let's try that again. Let's actually tension it the other way. Bomb the keyway tension wrench, and try that. Yeah, I often find that between the normal triple peak and the worm seems to be like the MVP of all of them, to be honest. if you get the Sparrow set. So I'm really happy I have the Worm. This is probably like my go-to rake. And then like it's like kind of the double peak, the city rake, and then like the S rake. And I really now only use the S rake for locks, where it's basically I don't have a 15,000th of an inch. I don't really have a 15,000th of an inch rake yet. I'd be really worried to break that, and if it's like a smaller keyhole overall, I will use that rake. Hold on, let me just flip this better here. Right there. Okay, a little bit less tension. Of course, like even though I've done this, I guess we're gonna do this clockwise again. Let's see here. Yeah, Niall could tell you why the Defying was so easy. He'd tell you the history of the brand, who owns it. No, my mentor, one of my mentors and a longtime friend is Night Owl. I learned so much from him at tool meetings as just well of our friendship of like it's definitely over 5 years. I would say it's probably more like 8 to 10 years that I know the dude. Really awesome, truly awesome dude if you ever get to meet him. And yeah, no, he's very much like I especially go to him for history of stuff because I normally don't know the history of things. And like he literally lives in like his all of his apartments have been basically museums, never mind just lock museums. I remember one of his old places. He literally was in like a unintentional Faraday cage from the 1920s. So he's very much just like, oh yeah, no, that is a Defiance 18 this. Thomas made that when he was drunk eating a sandwich and on the park bench of this, which relates to somehow Bell Labs, and like I just love that he does that. Yeah, I know. My hand does cramp. It's more because I'm like hungry and I've been streaming so long. And I am eventually going to get a vise. My problem with the vise is twofold. One is that they are heavy. And two is that while there's some lightweight ones, they're also kind of odd shaped and big. And most of this kit I've designed to be portable. Not all of it. Like there's some things that are not portable that I have to put in plastic bags. Certain kits. Definitely this tuber lock kit for now is in a bag. But I will end up getting a vise for not only the show, but I'll probably get like a heavy one for the show and a lightweight one for putting in the kit. But there's just been that, and also they're expensive. Most of the vices that you can get locally around here are at minimum $80. They usually go for actually more than $100 for like the most simple, basic, shittiest vice grip. So that's the reason why I haven't had it yet. You will eventually see me have one. See, this I know I'm getting hungry because I'm like starting to lose my like grip on reality here. I do want to experiment here and quickly try the city rake, just for shits and giggles. Who knows? This might actually be even more effective. So. Yeah, there's just like a hollow small one. I already have it bookmarked. I think that one's like $40 to $50. But yeah, I have to be like, hey, I got through all the other important lock stuff. I have like $50 to spare. I can order it online and figure out how it fits in the portable kit. Once I get all of those, that will be here. I'll probably get a heavier vise. That'll be on the more beefier portion of the table, not this part, just for the show, particularly because especially I'm going to be doing auto locks really soon as well on this show and add them to my kit, automotive locks. Both like I actually found a good clear automotive lock, the Sparrow's Progressive kit. Certain picks I'm ordering in that are based on crappier picks I already have that were automotive, as well as just ones that I've been able to get from junkyards. So there's all of that. I just want to see what can happen here. In fact, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try the official triple peak. And then we're going to go on to the smart one, which I'm only going to do for a couple of seconds because I know that one is annoying to open. Yep, and we just opened it again. Let's try that one last time because the peaks itself, the harsher peaks actually might work better on this guy. I also want to point out, which I should have at the beginning of the show, that the show is called Master of Unlocking, not because I'm ranked master somewhere at like Tool or whatever, but because I'm a giant gamer dork, and I really love the Resident Evil series. Resident Evil 8 was so awesome. My favorite, by the way, Resident Evil game is Resident Evil 2, and the OG Resident Evil 2, the remake was really good. It was like near perfect. I wish the Resident Evil 3 remake was better. But like the RE1 remake and classic Resident Evil 2, ironically enough, probably the Nintendo 64 version, despite its lower res, just because of the EX files and stuff. I just love those games. I've loved them since they first came out on the PlayStation and the Saturn. We just raked it again. So maybe the harsher peaks do work better on Defiant. But as you can see, I don't know about single pin picking because how tired I am, but with rake, even me, hungry, half tired, can't really get through that. This asshole, though, oh my god. So first of all, we're going to use the top of the keyway tension wrench if we're even going to attempt to do this guy. And I'm going to go in with the monkey paw. We're going to spend like a minute or 3 on this guy because I've done these before. These endlessly make me cry. Watch, I say that, and it actually opens on air for once. That would be absolutely fucking hilarious. I would literally cry on air. Because again, if Lockpicking Lawyer says that these are hard to feel, like, you know, this is a thing. This is definitely a thing. Go back to a more comfortable deforced diamond here. And I believe 20 to 25 thousandths of an inch should be okay with these guys. See, that's the thing. You don't even hear the pin slide back because of the way the half key pin slider guys are. And if I remember correctly, these are either impossible or difficult to rake open. Yeah, it's like I really have like no feeling for this. It's like so annoying. Like I feel like kind of slightly 1 or 2 things in the back of the 5 pins in here. But it's just, it's just so annoying. Like, this is the type of thing where usually when I see these in the wild, no, I've tried to pick these on doors and have, like, only opened one once completely by accident. So it has nothing to do with it being, like, in a vise or something for the smart key system. I'm very familiar with these, and they annoy the crap out of me. Usually, and most pickers will tell you this, if you see this, and it's like, it's an actual, like, emergency or work situation, you are going to bypass the door. And especially the type of door that was really shittily done. So I would have, if I encountered this in the field, would rather bypass the door on this than to attempt to pick this sort of thing. So yeah, I think we're honestly going to probably end the episode there. I'm going to go back to the chair over here. We're going to go back to face cam, provided that this camera doesn't fizz out. You get to see like my big head and the ceiling and stuff. And probably like a dead spider in the corner or some shit. But yeah, that is Master of Unlocking at the end of DEFCON right there. So thank you all so much for watching this on the stream. Again, I have like a steak waiting for me, so I'm like super excited. Oh, by the way, since I'm also doxing myself with the fact that I nearly died from carbon monoxide poisoning, I can tell you right now what happened yesterday about my crazy night. I missed all of Saturday on DEFCON night because I had a date. Like, when I mean a date, like a candlelight, flowers, doing things underneath the table that people have a hard time seeing that you're not supposed to be doing. Date. Thankfully not with the way the hair, like, this is like mad scientist hair from surviving DEFCON today. Yeah, that's where I was. I was in New York City on a date, and I don't have Discord on my phone anymore due to space reasons, so I got to miss most of that, although I was still watching the streams on Twitch and YouTube, and we're just constantly rehosting them. So, yeah, it was, they're the type of person where there's a bunch of people like this. I actually have a dream of bringing a bunch of my friends that aren't computer hackers, but are interesting people, to DEFCON, and a big reason is because I know a lot of queer activists that are very DIY, and I've taught them lockpicking and hacker things, and I want them to go there to meet like some of my friends, to go to the Tool Lockpicking Village, and particularly because all of them are queer as hell, to bring them a QueerCon and bring them to the QueerCon pool party after party thing in person, because they would I showed them pictures, and like they were like, you know, they've been to like the white party in Florida and stuff, and they were like, this looks truly nuts, like this looks gay and on fire and computery all at the same time. I want to do this. So like that's been a dream of mine, to bring like them and like a couple of other people. And I'm not saying that they're queer or not or what sex they are, because I'm not doxing myself like that. Plus I respect them enough for that. I'm very open. I just want to respect their wishes. And because I always say consent is sexy. Just like with the I'm with consent like the way with the lock rules. You don't pick a lock you don't own. You pick a lock you rely on. I try not to do anything without until people ask. I tell people I'm like a vampire, especially if you. Here's a tip: if you ever for some reason want to date me, I'm very much like a vampire in that I can't go to your place until you allow me to. Once you say that, I'm just gonna keep going in and out whenever I please. You have no choice. You have no hope. So that's kind of what I am. But yeah, I'm so happy that I streamed all of DEF CON. It was so awesome to be at Hacker Summer Camp. I was at the virtual business hall at Black Hat again, and I actually thought it was smoother and more involved this year, especially with some of the in-person cheap stuff. Now I kind of went. I wish I could have physically went. B-Sides was absolutely amazing. So great to talk to the lock community there, and I got to do Master of Unlocking with you folks. So not only we got to experience Hacker Summer Camp virtually with locks, which sounds weird because locks are very physical, but we did it. But I also showed you why in the last stream I streamed so late because I nearly died from carbon monoxide poisoning due to a bunch of morons. And I ended up actually getting some good locks out of it that now will go into my training kit for all to use. Probably I'm going to label them as intermediate to maybe even advanced with that smart keying system. And I'll definitely get advice for them. But yeah, I also have like other schlegs and stuff floating around. But yeah, thank you for watching this. If you are on Twitch, we are going to go raid another channel. There's probably no DEF CON or Village channel streaming right now. I'll be shocked if the closing ceremony is still going on, but we are going to raid a channel on Twitch, so stay stuck around. If you're on DLive, even if we're not streaming, please follow us. In fact, follow us on anything, even if we're not streaming. You'll get notifications when we go live again. Master of Unlocking happens the first and third Sunday of every month, so the next one will be on the 22nd, which will be, this because this usual pattern will be 2 days, roughly 2 days after our meeting. So I'll see you in 2 weeks on Sunday. If you want to see me before that, but I have nothing to do with locks, on the 14th, I don't know if it's going to be live or pre-recorded, depending on my schedule. We're going to do Crypto Barons, and again on the 28th, where I look over cryptocurrency technology as technology. I actually don't know exactly what I'm going to do on the episode. Seriously, will give me a really good idea for one, because he just heard of it, and I'm going to research that right now, and that might be the episode itself. We don't know when circuit breakers are going to be. I do know that Archvile Linux Perspective, which is Jack's show about video gaming and Arch Linux, will be on the 19th, the day before our meeting, because now he does them third Thursdays of every month. And our meeting's on the 20th, and provided that Delta's still there, it'll be a hybrid. So if you're in Jersey City or New York metro area, you can come out in person. We're going to have a bunch of in-person prizes, and we're going to be partying and watching movies and drinking and having great food back again at Subculture, because we miss those people so much. But if you can't make it, we're still going to be live streaming a chunk of it. In fact, there'll be exclusive things both in person and on live stream that, if you're in virtually, you're going to experience stuff that the people in the physical thing won't have, and vice versa. So stay tuned for those. I should have details for those in a day or two, but this was our show, Master of Unlocking. I hope you learned stuff. Remember, do not pick a lock you don't own, and don't pick a lock that you rely on. I will see all of you Locksporters doing something that I'll figure out on the 22nd. And 8 p.m. this time instead of 9 p.m., so we're going back to normal schedule. This was just because of DEF CON. And if you want to check out cryptocurrency, I'll see you on the 14th, and I'll ultimately see you guys on the 20th for our meeting. So that was our show. Hope you learned a bunch of stuff. Hope you had fun. Hope you had fun watching me struggle and talk about how I nearly died. Hack the planet, Dirty Jersey represent, and remember that one, if you hear a beeping sound, please go check it out. You might end up dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. And two, I hate these fucking things. I hate the smart key. Quick set. You actually made a decently secure, a good secure lock that stumps noobs and is annoying for intermediate lock pickers because you tried to make everything easy for everyone. I fucking hate you all. You want to whip out your tool. Email us or DM us on social media. Okay? I'll look out for that. Enjoy the music and say hi to whoever we raid. Peace out, everyone. See you next time. Sorry it took a while, but we just found someone to raid. Here we go.
Crazy.